one way or the other. In Sydney, perhaps we should have a look at Macarthur while we're there too, just in the southwest of Sydney. Okay, we've got 4% of the vote counted there, and this is looking like a tight battle with Russell Matheson just in front after preferences. That'll be too close to call. Yes, it is too close to call. Well, this is going to be an interesting contest. Does anyone else have any booth figures for Macarthur at this stage?
No, I've got nothing on Macarthur. I've got no new figures there. So I don't know what booth that's coming from.
Just wave your hand, mate.
From a coalition point of view, this is a must-win seat.
You've got to win this, haven't you?
And being so close, I think, indicates what the whole night, I think, has in store for us.
And can I say that's actually the one seat where the incumbent rule doesn't apply. Had Pat Farmer, having moved to Mosman, run, we'd be in. It was the one of those unusual situations where the locals were furious with their incumbent.
But in fact, what they've got there is the mayor, Russell Matheson, who's running, is very well known. He's the closest they could come to an incumbent there, and it will be very tight.
Bruce Hawker's got some numbers as well. Bruce?
Oh, just in Macarthur, the numbers I've got show a swing to, well, the Labor ahead in Macarthur on 59.5% of the vote, but my numbers are a little bit behind that actually. But you see there the big green vote again. It really does point to the importance of green preferences in these really tight seats. I mean, we would think we'd be very lucky to win Macarthur.
Sure, yeah, that's the sense I get, that Labor would be very happy to have that sort of figure at this stage of the night.
Yeah.
Before we leave New South Wales, let's check in 2 more seats before we go north to Queensland. Macquarie, once again, we'll check Macquarie in the Blue Mountains. Let's see if there's a stronger vote count there yet. There's 3% counted there, so still pretty early days, but Louise Marcus, who of course has moved from Greenway to Macquarie, is doing well on that early result. Have a look after preferences at how this stacks up, and that would, well...
You've got Blue Mountains birds in there.
Yeah.
Depends on the birds.
Depends on the birds. Yeah. And Eden Monero, let's quickly check Eden Monero in near the ACT, around Queanbeyan. And we've got 2.6%. So again, an early booths coming in, probably from some of those outlying areas. Not Queanbeyan, which will be the Labor stronghold. So yeah, too close still to call there. Perhaps we should go north of the Tweed and have a look at some of the Queensland seats that are in play. We were looking further north earlier in the night, but perhaps if we get into Brisbane itself, and well, let's start there. Let's have a look at Brisbane, a seat that Labor needs to hold on to tonight to win. Arch Bevis. Okay, we've got 8.5% of the vote counted there, and as you can see, Arch Bevis is in a bit of trouble here with Teresa Gambaro. Have a look after preferences. She's doing very well on the primary vote there, and this is an 11.5% swing to the Liberals in the seat of Brisbane with 8.5% counted. Fiona Nash, what do you think of that?
Well, very impressive, obviously early, but it is nearly 9%. Teresa Gambaro is a very, very good campaigner, tremendous campaigner, and she's been out there on the ground working very, very hard. I'm not surprised about that, actually.
Bruce Hawker, her family name was better known in Brisbane than in her former seat of Petrie.
Bruce Hawker, we're looking at Brisbane. What do you think about that sort of result? I mean, if Labor can't hold on to that seat, that's a big worry.
It's early days, David, but you'd worry about that sort of a swing in that seat. Further north in Flynn, also our scrutineers report that it's looking very difficult for us in that seat.
Yeah, okay. So, we've got the figures here at 13% counted, and yes, Chris Trevor, big supporter of Kevin Rudd. He is in trouble there with Ken O'Dowd ahead on that primary vote. Have a look after preferences. What this is going to mean, it's a swing to the LNP of 6%. Erica Betts?
Well, we were hoping that Flynn would be one of those seats that we'd pick up. If I recall correctly, last time round it was a 3-cornered contest, and we lost it by a narrow margin. The LNP amalgamation, there's just the one candidate, and it looks as though that might be paying dividends for us.
Both sides were expecting this to change hands tonight. Tony Burke?
It's, once again, you've got a big difference between Emerald and Gladstone in that seat. So even though there's a significant percentage, the spread of that will determine part of what you've got in the individual booths. So can I suggest, as we move through it, we have a on some other ones that we've spoken about. I think we've got enough results now of a strong trend in Tasmania with Bass and Braddon that I think it is very unlikely that Labor will lose those.
Okay.
And then...
Perhaps we should have a quick look at those before we come back to Queensland then to see if that's happening. In Bass, first of all, in the north of Tasmania, let's see what the trend is there. And you're right, well, 7.5% counted, and Labor's not in close, but not in too much trouble there. Have a look after preferences, and it looks like, I'm sure Labor will be picking up a swing, in fact. And Braddon, let's have a look at Braddon. That's saying too close to call, but Labor's not too worried about that, it seems. And Braddon has almost 20% counted there, and again is in front by a relatively comfortable margin there for Sid Sidebottom, picking up a swing. So a swing to Labor in the Apple Isle. But perhaps we should go back to Queensland, which is the real battleground. We're looking at Flynn, one that both sides, I think, were expecting to change hands, which we were looking at, as we just saw there. But let's look at Ford. Ford is another one that is going to be interesting to watch, and I think both sides were expecting was likely to change hands as well. And as you can see there, that's exactly what's happening on those very early figures. Again, this is less than 3% counted. Have a look after preferences. Yeah, well, you can see there that there is some movement there in those very early figures.
I think the coalition's on song in Queensland.
Yeah, Graham Morris.
Corangamite, the exciting one in Victoria. My stuff says at the moment, very, very early, but at the moment the Libs are in front, 42.58, something like that. 300 and a bit thousand voted counted.
Yeah, we've got here more than that, in fact, Graham. We've got 11% counted.
It's a good start.
Yeah, Sarah Henderson is on track to pick up this seat based on that count. Have a look at the preferences after preferences. And you can see Sarah Henderson's picking up a 3% swing, enough to win this seat. Christina Keneally, that'd be a worry to lose that seat, but perhaps not entirely unexpected given the candidate the Libs are running there.
Look, she's certainly a very strong candidate, and that is going to be a tough one. I agree, it's too close to call, and it probably is one that, however the election goes, I reckon is how this seat's going to go.
All right.
Can I just say on that, I agree that Sarah Henderson, I think, is probably one of the best candidates the coalition's running across the country. The primary vote for the Libs on individual seats, on individual polling booths, their primary vote has gone down in all but one of those polling booths. So I'm just not sure what's going on there. There's not many minor parties running. I mean, our primary vote's gone down too, but it surprises me to see that sort of result and to see the Liberal primary vote going down at the same time from last election.
Well, let's look while we're in Victoria at Latrobe and then McKew. Latrobe in the Dandenongs, just to the north of Melbourne. OK, well, this is looking pretty close too, but Jason Wood in front on that primary vote with 6.5% counted. Have a look after preferences, and yeah, he's just got his nose in front in that seat. Too close to call, but Labor needs to pick up that seat, and also McKew. Let's have a look at McKew. Again, to the north of Melbourne, only 5% counted there, but the Liberals are in front there on the primary vote with Cameron Kane, and after preferences, again, just in front, but that's going to be too close to call, I would think, at this stage as well. It is. Bruce Hawker, Labor needs to be doing a bit better than this in Victoria tonight. Yeah,
yes, but I've just heard from our scrutiny is that we've got an early swing of 2.5% to us in Latrobe. I haven't got the actual numbers, but a 2.5% swing would give us Latrobe.
Yeah.
So Corangamite looked a bit disturbing, but it's early, and our people are reporting a better result than that.
From the booths that you normally see. All right, because that result at the moment that we're seeing at 6.5% counted has Jason Wood on track to perhaps just hold it, but very early days.
Yeah.
We might return to Queensland then and see where we were. We were looking at Flynn earlier. Let's have a look at Ford. I think was the seat that we were last looking at. All right, so we now got about 7.5% counted. And as we saw, Labor battling to hold onto this seat. After preferences, the LNP will be in front, but I think that's probably going to be too close to call. OK, that is too close to call. Graham Morris?
Yes, just have a look at the Kevin factor in Queensland at this stage. Right, where the coalition's up 7%, Leichhardt 9%, Herbert 3%, Dawson up. You know, there is a Kevin factor already. This early in the night in Queensland, it does not look pretty for the Labor Party.
David, in Herbert, I've just been given some results that a Riverside booth, the Liberal Party, or LNP, has won that convincingly, and even the booth at the university, supposedly, we won that by one vote, two-party preferred. So if those sort of swings keep on, even at the university, I think we might be in luck with Herbert.
This is the statewide vote at the moment in Queensland. 12% of the statewide vote counted. That's going up as we speak. But as you can see there across the state from that count so far, a 9% swing against Labor, which is a big swing. Now, you know, admittedly 5% of it is going to the Greens, and some of that, most of that will come back to Labor. But a 3% swing to the coalition. Bob Hawke, that sort of swing at the moment, how much of a worry is that for Labor?
Oh, it's a worry. There's no doubt about that. If you give all the Greens to Labor, that's still it's not a magnificent result.
No.
At this stage, I'd like to see a bit more of the metropolitan
in Brisbane
break up, but it doesn't seem any doubt that regional Queensland's been a big kick in the bum for us.
Very hard, yep.
All right, well, let's do that. Let's get into the seats in and around Brisbane. In fact, let's have a look at Moreton, for example. This one was you know, a long shot, perhaps, for the LNP. 6% counted there. And look, this is going to be pretty close, but I'm sure with those Greens preferences going to Graham Perrott, let's have a look after preferences and how that looks. And yeah, he's going to be okay, but early days in that seat.
But looks comfortable for Labor, I would
You'd
have
think
thought.
so, yeah.
Yeah.
And it should be.
Well, if we don't hold more, we'll...
Yeah.
Well, yeah, sitting on a 6% margin, you shouldn't lose it.
Booth worker this morning have to leave the polling booth at 8 a.m. just as voting started because his wife had gone into Labor. But I was going to get a text message later to see if they called the child Julia, but I've been waiting and the message still hasn't come through.
Graham Morris.
Just have a look at Bonner, which is even further up the pendulum. At the moment, it looks as if it's a 6% two-party preferred swing to the coalition.
Oh. We've got 10.5% of the vote counted there in Bonner, and Kerry Ray, yes, is in some strife there. This is one that was bound to change hands, I suppose.
Yeah, but look at the Green vote there.
The Greens, yes, it is holding up very strongly, but it won't be enough to help Labor. Ross Vasta, a former member, have a look after preferences at how he's going.
Man,
That's going to be too close to call, isn't it?
Vesta knows about tight contests. He won it off Watcon Shaka, then lost. So let's hope the sitting member loses again, but Bonner's one of those seats that seems to have changed each time.
Yeah, I've got to say, the way you've distributed the preferences there doesn't match what I'm getting on Bonner at all. So on the information coming through from our scrutineers, we're getting a much higher percentage after preferences than what you've credited us with there.
You're getting a stronger result.
Much stronger result for Kerry Ray, than what your computer's saying there.
Yeah, okay. Is this because you think the preference flow is going to be more than 80% to Labor from the Greens this time around?
Well, what our scrutineers are doing is, as it's coming through, they are calling straight through to our machine where those preferences actually went to. As those results are coming through, we're more at a 53% for Kerry Ray.
But just a general question. I mean, the split was normally, well, at the last election was 80%. 80% flow generally of Greens votes to Labor. Is it going to be stronger, do you think, this time around? Perhaps because Green voters are more worried about Tony Abbott?
Well, let me take a punt because the truth of this will be known very soon. But my guess is we will get a higher percentage of Green preferences than we usually have for two reasons. One, a lot of people who vote Green this time are people who have previously always voted Labor.
Just on that, David, Bonner, I don't know if you can hear me.
2 points.
Oh, sorry.
Let's
Give him a second point.
And your second point.
And secondly, Tony Abbott's view on climate change will make it very hard for a Green voter to preference him. Very hard.
Bruce.
On our numbers, the two-party preferred in Bonner for Labor is 54.5. So it's actually holding up.
Which would back up what Tony was saying.
Yeah, as Tony says, we're actually seeing the preferences come through and they're going into our computer. So that's a pretty accurate idea, I think, of where the numbers are going. Even though our primary vote is low, we're getting a very solid swag of preferences coming through from the Greens.
Ashley Gillan is at the Julia Gillard camp tonight in Melbourne. Julia Gillard, Ashley Gillan, some of these early results are patchy. What's the sort of mood you're picking up there?
Oh, David, I can tell you the champagne is actually on ice behind me, but no one's quite game enough to have any yet. Of course, we saw that some of the Labor staffers here were a bit buoyed by the exit polling results we saw a bit earlier in the evening. Now, though, that these results are coming through, as you say, the best word to describe them is patchy. So no one here is feeling especially confident. Julia Gillard, I understand, an insider told me that she delivered a speech to some of her key staffers earlier tonight, thanking them for their hard work and also warning them to prepare for a long night. So Julia Gillard obviously still thinking that this race is going to have a photo finish as she predicted 5 weeks ago when this campaign began. Julia Gillard will be watching the results unfold tonight at a hotel room here in Melbourne. She'll be joined by her partner Tim and her parents who've flown over from Adelaide, plus her sister and nieces and nephews. So a family environment tonight for Julia Gillard as she watches how these seats are all unfolding.
All right, Ashley, thank you. And Kieran Gilbert is with Tony Abbott at the Tony Abbott camp in Sydney tonight at the Four Seasons Hotel. Kieran, these early results, what do you make of them, and how do you think Tony Abbott would be feeling?
Well, I reckon he'd be buoyed by them, David. He'd be pleased, certainly, with the early numbers in Corangamite, in Ford, in Flynn, in Queensland. Absolutely buoyed by them. As you say, still patchy with Kerry Ray and Bonner doing surprisingly well. But look, regardless of what happens tonight, Tony Abbott, it's been a remarkable turnaround in the last 6 or so months. And in this campaign, a disciplined effort. He said during the campaign he channeled Peter Costello on the economy. Many thought he was channeling John Howard, the discipline, the language and so on. John Howard, his hero, will be here a little later tonight, as will Jeanette Howard. And Mr Abbott is watching tonight's coverage not far from here at the Four Seasons Hotel in central Sydney. His wife Margie, his 3 daughters, including Frances, who's flown back from Europe, will also be here and support Dave in the next couple of hours.
All right, Kieran, thank you. Let's have a look before we leave Queensland at Longman. This is one of the seats that the coalition, I guess, would need to win nationally. But, well, Wyatt Roy is doing pretty well there on that primary vote. Less than 5% counted, admittedly, but after preferences, let's see, I'm sure he'll still just be in front, but too close to call. Yeah, so a swing on those early figures to him, but too close to call. Let's have a look at Page in New South Wales. All right, now the figures there in Page, we've got a fairly decent number of votes counted there, getting up to nearly 25%. And Janelle Saffin, this is going to be very tight by the looks of that. A strong Greens vote after preferences will help her.
Janelle will hold that. Yeah. Janelle may well increase the majority, but Janelle will hold that.
Can we have a look at Dobell and Eden Monero? They're looking very interesting.
OK, we'll start with Dobell on the central coast of New South Wales. Yeah. 18%, 19% counted there, and Craig Thompson, yeah, he's not going to be in too much trouble there, you wouldn't think, on that sort of result. After preferences, we've got a swing and to him
Monero,
of 3%
which is the bellwether seat.
Yeah.
Eden Monero.
Yeah.
So Labor to hold on to Dobell, Eden Monero, further south in New South Wales. Close again, but Labor will be happy enough with that. Only 5.5% counted after preferences. Let's see how that looks.
Figures here for Eden Monero with just about 15% of the vote counted.
Right. And you're saying that 15% of the vote counted is encouraging?
On that, Labor's got 53.4%.
About the same margin as on the screen.
Yeah. So it looks as though it's holding pretty well there. That's with over with a quarter of the vote counted.
So New South Wales, what we've seen on the Central Coast and in Eden Monero isn't too bad for Labor so far tonight.
What you've seen so far in New South Wales is a different result in Western Sydney to the rest of the state.
I was just going to say the same thing. That's
there's no doubt about that.
Your Central Coast and your
so you're
further out
areas.
The inner western seats.
We'll have a look at those in a tick. Graham Morris.
David, just have a look at that ring around Sydney. It is moving to the coalition.
Okay.
Hughes, MacArthur, Macquarie, Lindsay, Greenway, they are all shifting towards the coalition on the scrutiny of figures.
Okay, let's have a look at MacArthur then, first of all. All right, well, Hughes, Hughes, Craig Kelly will hold on to that, although he's being pushed a little bit. We've got 11, nearly 12% counted, too close to call. MacArthur, let's have a look at MacArthur to the southwest of Sydney. We've got 18 and a bit % counted.
That's a clear lead.
Russell Matheson is going to win that seat, you would think. Let's have a look after preferences. Fiona Nash, will the coalition win that seat now, do you think?
Oh, well, it looks pretty likely, doesn't it, with 18% counted. He's done a very, very good job there with the new candidate.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay, and let's go up to the Blue Mountains and Macquarie. Let's have a look at how that is going. No incumbent member there at the moment. We've got 9% of the vote counted, and again, that one looks like it will go to the Liberals too. So have a look after preferences. Louise Marcus is picking up a 6% swing there.
I think that's probably a booth thing. That's larger than I would have expected.
And
I'm not
let's
saying
check in on...
I didn't have it on my list. I think it's going to narrow, but interestingly, it's a stronger lead than I thought it would be.
Yeah, stronger than I expected.
You know,
If we don't win Macquarie, we've got no chance.
Yeah, what I'm saying is the extent of it.
Understood.
And Robertson, you've got to win as well. Let's see Robertson on the central coast of New South Wales. And the latest figures there, we've got still only less than 9% counted, and this is going to be a close contest too. After preferences, Darren Jamieson might just be in front. He is, with a slight swing, but I think that's going to be too close still at this stage. Yeah, it is.
Do Gilmore?
Gilmore, let's see that.
Yeah, Jo Gash. She's a great campaigner.
South of Sydney.
Redistribution against her.
Yeah, she shouldn't have any
clearly
trouble there,
winning.
you wouldn't think. So we've got about a third of the vote counted there, and she'll be winning this one. Let's have a look
I
after
think we can give you
preferences.
Gilmore and not have to put that on the screen every time.
No, we like seeing it. We like seeing
I'm
it.
sure you do.
I didn't count Gilmore either. So
One we were talking about earlier, further south, a lot further south, is the seat of Melbourne. Let's see what sort of figures we're getting there between Labor and the Greens in this inner city contest. Only 3% counted, okay, so that's...
No, your critical thing in Melbourne will be, do the Liberals come third? Because given the preference decision they've made, if the Liberals come third, then we are in deep trouble in Melbourne, and that's exactly what's happening there.
Have a look after preferences at what it's going to say. Again, these are fairly early results, but a decent swing there to the Greens.
And David, for what it's worth, the inner city seat of Denison in my home state of Tasmania, very strong independent Andrew Wilkie is running there. It'll be very interesting to see what happens there.
There we go. Well, 28% counted.
Yes.
And
the Liberal Party is preferencing Andrew Wilkie.
So that might push him.
And so that will be a very, very interesting contest.
We'll have a look after
I've got some
preferences, but
figures
I should say that the preference flow is going to be
yes,
a little because our computer wouldn't have had Andrew Wilkie in the system last time.
That's right. And I got some information via this wonderful piece of modern technology telling me that Andrew Wilkie is in with a real chance. He ran in the state campaign for the seat of Denison and polled very strongly, and that could be a surprising independent win. Which, of course,
are the Greens going via Andrew Wilkie before they go to Labor?
now these are very good questions.
Does that return that outcome?
I am not sure of that. Not sure of that, but of course Andrew Wilkie used to be a Green. He ran on a Senate ticket with Bob Brown, got dissatisfied, so it's nice to know the Green Party also has dissatisfied people.
If he wins this seat, and we're looking at a hung parliament, what's he likely to do?
Bevan?
If he wins this seat and we have a hung parliament situation, what do you reckon he'd do? I mean, as you pointed out, he's run as a Greens candidate in the past.
Look, as an independent, and he's really been selling his independence, I dare say he would say who got the most seats or who got the most votes as an indication as to which way he would go, but in fairness, you'd have to ask him.
Graham Morris.
The three Victorian seats are looking a bit squiffy for the coalition.
All right, let's start with McKew if we can.
McKew.
Let's have a look
on the list this time.
Yeah, okay. We'll start with McKew in Victoria to the north of Melbourne.
Rob Mitchell.
All right, we're just having a little delay there. Okay, here it is. Okay, so McKew, we now have 13.5% of the vote counted there, and the coalition might need to be doing better than that. They're ahead on the primary vote, but have a look after preferences at how Rob Mitchell. Yep, well, that'll be too close to call, I would think.
Still.
Graham, are you hearing any different on McKeown?
No, but at the moment there is a swing in Victoria. La Trobe's the same, and Dunkley even is the same.
Well, let's go to La Trobe before we get to Dunkley. La Trobe shows us, this is in the Dandenongs. Jason Wood is, well, he's going to struggle with that strong Greens vote, going to push up the Labor vote. So have a look after preferences at how he's going there. And, yeah, he is in trouble. That'll be too close to call. A swing to Labor, though, with 20% of the vote counted. So this one will no doubt drag into the night as the votes come in. Dunkley, let's have a look at that.
This would be a bonus.
All right, again, Bruce Bilson's seat, he's going to be pushed. He's going to be in a lot of trouble there with that. 24% of the vote counted. And this Greens vote, have a look after preferences at what it's going to do. And that's going to give the seat to Labor on those figures. What's the projection show? Too close.
We've got Corangamite.
Let's check Corangamite as well in Victoria. So this is where the coalition's in a bit of trouble in Victoria. Corangamite was the only one really in this state that it was hoping to pick up.
It's going to be very close.
Still close.
Yeah, and Sarah Henderson's doing well, but this Greens vote, 3,000, that's the key figure here. Have a look after preferences. 30% of the vote counted. That's just too close to call, isn't it?
David, we're starting to get some figures in South Australia too. Very early, but Boothby, for example.
All right, let's start with Boothby and then we'll have a look at Sturt in South Australia. Of course, half an hour behind in the count because of the time zone there. Only 1% counted. So,
that's nothing.
Yeah, it's not going to mean much. But have a look after preferences anyway, and then we'll check out Sturt. So Andrew Southcott, even on that 1% though, depending on the booth or two that it is going to be a bit of a push for him. Yeah, so look, that's not going to mean much. Sturt, again, less than 2% counted. Chris Pine, he's ahead on that tiny count.
Can we do Deakin in Victoria?
OK, well, let's go back to Victoria and check out Deakin.
He'll be holding there, I think.
I think so, but I just want to see.
Yeah, a seat
Yeah. It's okay.
Huge green.
Yeah, Phil Baresi. Have a look after preferences. You've got almost 20% of the vote counted. That still might be too close to call, is it? Yeah, too close to call. But do we have the Victorian statewide vote? Can we have a look at the statewide vote for Victoria? Because it does seem Labor's doing perhaps a little... Yeah, well, this is interesting. I'm not sure if that's entirely right here. 17% counted.
It doesn't match those seats.
Graham.
You come out with that number and we're doing OK seat by seat, I'm fine.
Right.
Just have a look at Lindsay, a seat of 6.3% required for the coalition to win it in New South Wales. They're going to go very, very close.
All right, we're back into Western Sydney then. And David Bradbury, yeah, he is in some trouble. They're trailing on the primary vote, but this is going to be incredibly close. Nearly 20% of the vote counted. After preferences, the Greens will push him neck and neck with Fiona Scott, I would think. Yeah, it is.
You see, it may well be a bit worse for Labor than what you've got there, because you're presuming, I think, an 80% Green preference. Got to remember, this is a seat where there is no Green preference card for Labor, as I understand it. So we may not do as well with Green preferences here as we do in other parts of the country.
Bruce.
I'm just going to try to have a look at which seats we think have gone, David, at this stage. I've got on my list Macquarie has gone to the Libs. I've got MacArthur gone to the Libs. Query whether Longman's gone and Flynn are gone.
Sorry, just repeat that for us, Bruce. Macquarie, MacArthur.
Longman, query whether it's gone, but looks not looking good. Flynn not looking good. And we're told that Leichhardt's not looking all that good for Labor either in far north Queensland.
All right, and let's perhaps we'll do a look through New South Wales and then we'll go to Queensland to have a look there. So an update on Macquarie, 13% counted. Susan Templeman for Labor trailing there. After preferences, Louise Marcus should win this seat. As Bruce said, he's putting it in the column of a Liberal gain tonight. Do we have that after preferences? No, we don't. OK. But would everyone agree that that one now looks like a Liberal gain tonight?
You'd want to know where those booths are. It's a variegated seat, that one.
Yeah. The seat of Lindsay, let's check that out in... let's see Lindsay in the Western Sydney again and see what the update is there. Bruce Hawker was telling us that he thinks Oh, Bruce didn't actually mention Lindsay.
No. I think it's very,
All right,
very
so
close.
20% counted there.
Too close to call.
Yeah, this will be very close. These Greens votes will help David Bradbury, but let's have a look after preferences. Yeah, still too close to call. And then
And full credit to David Bradbury there. 4 months ago, that seat was gone for us. And that is an extraordinary campaign on the ground by David. He's done a lot more than that.
Let's see Bennelong. All right, this is 16% of the vote counted there, and John Alexander's doing pretty well. Have a look after preferences. Yeah, he is doing well, picking up a 4% swing there. And the projection's going to be too close.
Yeah. Projection too close? No.
I think it
But that's a bit of a worry for Labor, Tony.
It is.
Yeah, that's Bennelong is now looking really tough. I'd want to have 25% counted before I made a firmer call, but Bennelong is a much more consistent seat than some of the ones we've been looking at. While you've got Liberal voting areas and Labor voting areas, the booths are of a closer size, so you don't get the distortion as the results come in that seat. We're in trouble in Bennelong.
Okay, Eden Monero. Let's have a look at Eden Monero in New South Wales. Get an update on that. And we now have only less than 13% of the vote counted. That's going to be very close, but that Greens vote will certainly help Mike Kelly. Have a look after preferences and how that looks. That'll be too close to call.
In that seat too, David, Jerabonga, I think, is the largest booth there, and I doubt that would have all been counted yet, and that tends to go our way.
Okay.
So it'd be worthwhile keeping an eye on it.
We'll keep an eye on that then.
I see at Jerabonga there's a local issue there that Mike's been really, really strong on and has a lot of support there too.
Yeah, okay. The Central Coast
Yeah,
seats.
Jerabomba is in.
Yeah,
It's in. Jerabomba is in. And I haven't got the swings for it, but yeah, that's in.
All right, let's check out Robertson on the Central Coast and see how Labor's tracking there. This is one the Coalition need to win. But on these figures, this is going to be interesting. Okay, well, that's just jumped up while we've been looking at it. Nearly 20% of the vote counted. Deborah O'Neill isn't doing too badly there, and she'll be helped by those Greens votes. So let's have a look after preferences at how that stacks up. And she might just hold on to this. 20% of the vote counted there. It'll say too close to call. But Fiona Nash, that's the Coalition need to win this seat.
Yeah, absolutely. And with nearly 20%, that is
Deborah
too
O'Neill
tight.
could turn out to be an important player for Labor tonight if she holds on.
And not only that, the communities that Deborah's been in touch with all her life are significant. You see, she lives at Copacabana. Earlier we mentioned the McMaster's Beach booth was in, which normally isn't good for Labor. It's the next beach south from Copacabana. So a whole lot of the polling booths that traditionally are quite difficult for Labor in that seat are the areas that Deb O'Neill knows best, and some of that seems to be coming through now.
Let's have a look at the statewide vote for New South Wales and see if we do have any sort of pattern happening here. Bruce Hawker, we're looking at the results in New South Wales, and it's showing with 23% of the vote counted, a 6% swing against Labor on primary votes, a 3% swing to the Libs and a 2% to the Nats. So that's a 5% gain for the Coalition, a 2% gain to the Greens. Bruce, what do you make of that?
Well, what it's not showing, though, is that in the seats which we must hold, like Robertson, we're doing quite well. This is shades of South Australia at this stage in the night. Even the seat of Herbert, for example, which is in Queensland, of course, right on the cusp. Labor's neck and neck with the Libs there. So
if you hold, if Labor holds Robertson and you're still competitive in Eden Monero, that's going to stop the Coalition getting the total number that it needs. I mean,
we've got to remember this, David. They need 13 seats effectively to get into hung Parliament territory. That's what we have to start focusing on as the night goes on. Where are the 13 seats?
But David, have a look at Greenway, which wasn't even in the early count. Greenway.
Okay, well, Greenway, not one of the ones that the Coalition necessarily had in the likely column, but you're right, only 5.6% counted on these figures here. Have a look after preferences. Coalition will be just in front on that, but too close to call.
I've got 19% from our scrutineers on that. And in Greenway at the moment, we've got Michelle Rowland on a two-party preferred of 51.6%.
It's still pretty close, though, isn't it? I mean, you've got to hold
it's still
this,
close. And Western Sydney, we're getting a swing against us. But, I'd rather be close in front, and that's based on just short of
49%.
Yeah,
Can we
but
look Patterson and Cowper in New South Wales?
Could I make a quick comment on the statewide vote in New South Wales? Looks as though Fiona Nash has returned as a senator. So let's hope that's the case.
Congratulations.
So let's hope that's
well done,
the case.
Senator Nash.
Democracy is
Yeah.
Okay, we'll look at Patterson for John Hewson there. Patterson, can we bring up Patterson and have a look at this one?
Liberal Nationals.
Okay. 42% of the vote
Bob
counted there, so
Baldwin's
this is
done
pretty
well.
definitive. 44%, it's just jumped up. Bob Baldwin won't have any trouble there. Have a look after preferences. And there's a swing to him, as you mentioned earlier, so he's well, it's saying too close to call.
And Cowper?
And Cowper, let's check out Cowper before we leave
That's a very good point, John.
New South Wales.
I've got very few results on Cowper at the moment. I don't know what's happening there.
They'd have a few small booths coming in, one would have suspected.
Okay, we've got 36%.
Very comfortable.
Bearing in
And
mind
the
that
vote
was a seat
counted
the
there.
pundits were writing off about 3 days ago, saying that it was
Patterson
going
and
to lose
Cowper were
it.
two Labor Party hopefuls, and I don't think they're going to get either of them.
I don't know, Tony Burke, would you say they were hopefuls?
Look, Patterson has been an outside chance. Cowper has been a distant dream for some time. I think we would have loved to have been able to get there. But, yeah, when we've been working through the list of what was likely to fall tonight, that certainly hasn't been at the
Can
front.
I ask about the independent?
Sorry, a couple of the pundits called it a couple of days ago gone, actually, from us. So it's interesting to see it is so strong.
Who's the independent John Arkin? His preferences will clearly be very important in that seat.
Yeah, they will, but Luke's going to be still, even if all of them go to... yeah, Luke's going to be okay on that. Before we leave New South Wales and have a look north of the border at what's happening in Queensland, Graham Morris, what are you making of what's happening in New South Wales? Is the coalition getting enough to win this election out of what we're seeing in places like Robertson and Eden Monero?
There are a couple that you would have hoped, or the coalition would have hoped to have won, that are going to be, we might not know tonight, but there are a few there that weren't in the count that are now in the count. New South Wales has moved quite a bit to the coalition. And just as a matter of interest, before you leave New South Wales, have a look at that strange little seat, the smallest in the country, that Malcolm Turnbull looks after.
All right, let's
Wentworth.
do that. Wentworth, let's check that out. Yeah, well, he's on fire. Have a look after preferences. Malcolm Turnbull's going to get a huge swing here.
Now, that's what you can achieve when you campaign for the Liberal Party and don't mention Tony Abbott.
Well, that is quite untrue, because Tony Abbott was in the seat, but Malcolm will now no longer be able to claim that he's a marginal seat holder.
Correct, correct, yeah.
Before we leave New South Wales, it might be worth having a quick look at Riverina, where the Nats have got a retiring member.
Yeah, okay, let's
And
have
a
a look at that
three-corner
then.
contest, yeah.
And then can we go to Solomon? Very tight.
We might get some early results in Solomon, but
Yeah.
Riverina, okay. Michael McCormack, he's doing pretty well there. 30% of the vote counted. After preferences, let's have a look. And yep, 4% swing to him there, so he'll hold on to that. Let's have a look at Solomon, because counting's been underway there for I think just over an hour in the Northern Territory. Very difficult one to call which way this is going to go. Less than 2% of the vote counted there, but the Liberals, Natasha Griggs doing pretty well, and Damien Hale in some trouble. After preferences, have a look at that. Yeah, still very early figures though.
So those results,
Some later figures there, but we are still behind.
You're still behind.
Those
Okay.
results are too good to be true, but from what I've heard, the Liberal Party vote is up, as is the Green vote, but even if the Green vote goes back to Labor, the increase in the Liberal vote, or CLP vote I should say, may just be enough for Natasha Griggs, who was a very, very good candidate.
All right, we were looking, before we get to Queensland, at Victoria. Our reporter Aaron Young is in the seat of McKew. Aaron, what are you hearing there?
Yes, good evening to you, David. When we say the name McKew these days, particularly after the last election when it came down to 31 votes to get Fran Bailey over the line, we usually think of controversy, and I can tell you it's taken about an hour and a half after polls closed for that controversy to kick in tonight. Now, this is according to the Liberal Party here. They are telling us that down in Epping, which is one of the major polling booths for this particular electorate, there appears to have been a problem earlier this afternoon where they actually ran out of ballots. Now, the AEC got involved. They shut down that booth for about an hour and a half or so. When they came back online, apparently the first 100 or so votes, or the ballot papers, actually didn't have a signature, which you, of course, would have seen up the top right-hand corner. Now, because of that, the AOC apparently has ruled that up to 100, possibly more than 100, according to the Liberals here, may actually now be ruled out. And when we talk about 31 votes, you can understand it is a very cautious situation. But just having a chat to the Liberal candidate here, Cameron Kane, he was telling me a short time ago that it may have actually been on another area as well, so it could have spilled into another electorate too, but very early stages. That's what we're hearing here tonight, though.
Yeah, in a seat, Aaron Young, thank you, that took some time to determine after the last election. We might come back to that issue in the coming days and weeks if it's as close there as well. We will now go to Queensland and have a look at some of the seats there, starting with David Lipson in the seat of Griffith, Kevin Rudd's seat, and more numbers there now. David, what's the vote like for Kevin Rudd tonight?
Well, from what I'm hearing, the vote is pretty strong for Kevin Rudd. Of course, this is a very safe Labor seat. He held it by a margin of 12.3%, and he was never really in any danger. But as you mentioned behind me, you can see that the room is now filling out here at the East Leagues Club. The beer is flowing pretty freely, but there's still a lot of tension among the party faithful, and a bit of applause at the moment. That is some... Oh, of course, it's applause for the figures that we're putting on the screen. I didn't realise. So people there obviously obviously pretty happy to see that Kevin Rudd is doing well in this seat. He hasn't arrived yet. We are expecting him at some point tonight, and of course that will be interesting to gauge his reaction, his speech to the party faithful here. He had an interesting day today, a difficult day, you'd have to say. He was going to vote at one particular polling booth, but protesters turned up, including the family of Matthew Fuller, who was one of the victims who was installing roof insulation when he was electrocuted, and Kevin Rudd didn't end up voting at that seat where all the cameras, at that polling booth where all the cameras were waiting. He gave the media the slip, essentially. His minders have said that it was a matter of logistics, but it's been another difficult day for Kevin Rudd. It's been a difficult campaign, but he will be welcomed here tonight.
All right, David Lipson, thank you. Let's have a look at Queensland seats. Graham Morris, Bruce Hawker, what are you picking up from what's happening in Queensland?
Just have a look at Brisbane, where Theresa Gambaro is flying, a seat that should not have come into calculations. Brisbane.
Here we go. All right, so the figures are... Wow, Theresa Gambaro, 33% counted. She is way in front. Have a look after preferences. This is not one Labor can afford to lose, but it looks like it will on that sort of result. Too close to call, but that's a real worry there. Bruce Hawker, for Labor, that's a real worry.
In the night, the redistribution doesn't favour us there, with suburbs like Ascot and Clayfield coming into the electorate. They're very strong Liberal suburbs. However, it's probably also worth looking at Longman and Petrie as well, David.
All right, well, let's do that. Brisbane looking in trouble for Labor. Longman is one that, well, whether they can afford to lose it or not, but Wyatt Roy is in front. The 20-year-old candidate here looks like tipping out John Sullivan, who had a last week campaign gaffe after preferences, 35% counted, and it looks like we might be seeing a 20-year-old member for Longman. Too close to call, but that is a problem for Labor. Petrie as well is one that they need to hold. Let's see how this one's going. Yvette Darth has just got her nose in front, but she's being pushed here, 41%. Let's have a look after preferences and see. I'm sure that's going to be too close to call. But, Bruce, what do you think? I think we'll hold Petrie, David. That's the word we're getting back. But Longman, obviously, far too close to call. And Brisbane looking very grim. Yeah. Tony?
Oh, guy. When you're talking 40% of the vote counted and you're in front at just short of 3% in front, it's difficult to see us losing Petrie.
Yeah, but Brisbane, would you be more pessimistic about that? I mean, Theresa Gambaro's
I'm worried about Brisbane.
Surging ahead there. We're going to stay in Queensland and then we'll get back to New South Wales, guys. But Queensland, let's check out while we're in there Ford, if we can. All right, so Ford is one that Labor was hoping but wasn't expecting to do terribly well. But with 41% of the vote, Look, they might be in with a chance. Let's have a look after preferences. Those Greens votes might help. And yeah, that's going to be too close to call. Neck and neck there at the moment.
And previous results are almost irrelevant in Ford. In Ford, you were talking about the highest growth electorate, I think, in the country.
Yeah.
Look at Dixon and Dawson.
OK, let's have a look at Dixon. This is the one Peter Dutton is trying to hold. The redistribution there made it notionally Labor, but yeah, he's on fire there. 45% of the vote counted. He'll hang on to that seat. Have a look after preferences, and well, it's close.
Yeah, there's been a significant issue there about Peter taking some time before he decided to run for the seat.
Yeah, we tried to run for another seat and then came back to...
looks on those results that he may well survive having done that, but there was certainly a local backlash against it at the time.
Yeah.
Dawson.
All right, well, let's go up the coast then. OK, so we've now got 36% of the vote counted there, and the LNP is doing all right. This is going to be very close after preferences, I would think. Yeah, that's pretty close, but yeah, this is going to be too close to call. Erica Betts, what do you make of this?
Well, clearly too close to call. Dawson is a must-win seat for us if we're to have any chance tonight, so let's see how the count progresses.
And just quickly, we'll check two other seats in Queensland while we're there. We'll check Herbert, further north around Townsville. Seat of Herbert is... OK, here we are. Tony Mooney's, well, he's doing OK. It's going to be very close. A third of the vote counted. After preferences, he might be just in front. Well, this is a real knife-edge battle here. Under 51%. Too close to call. And finally, Leichhardt in the top end of Queensland. Let's have a look at Leichhardt. And this one has 28%, 29% counted. Jim Turner is trailing Warren Ench. Looks like getting back in on those figures. Let's have a look on the two-party result. Warren Ench is on track to win that with just under 30% counted. Too close to call, but Warren Ench for the LNP in front. All right, we'll come back to Queensland shortly, but now let's go to Western Sydney. Nina May is in the seat of Lindsay. Nina May, what's happening there?
Hi there, David. Yes, I'm at St Mary's RSL, where supporters of David Bree have gathered tonight. Could be some solemn faces, though, later on the evening, as we saw on Sky a bit earlier. The earlier results are pointing to a very large swing towards the Liberal candidate here. Now, David Bradbury, of course, holds his seat. A swing of 6.3% is needed to unseat him. I have spoken to his people here and they say, look, early results, we would expect them to come through from the rural booths, more likely to be pretty coalition heavy. And I've also spoken to Fiona Scott's people who said to me, look, this one is going to go down to the wire. It is going to go down to preferences. It is too close to call. So certainly things could still be very, very tight here in the seat of Lindsay. This is one of the seats that the coalition really needs to win in order to achieve government for Tony Abbott to wake up as Prime Minister tomorrow. Lindsay is a crucial seat, David.
Yeah, all right, Nina May, thank you for that. Some Labor faces behind you there, not looking terribly thrilled at the moment. Bridie Barry is in the seat of Melbourne at the Greens camp there, where Adam Bant is hoping to score a lower house seat for the Greens. Bridie, what are you hearing there?
Yeah, certainly looking very promising is what we're hearing from the supporters. They're not ready to call it yet, but we are expecting him to come down and make a speech at any time now to all the supporters gathered here. Obviously, we're hearing only a certain amount of polling booths actually counted yet, but they're certainly saying that the swing to them is to the Greens is between 7 to 8% at some of those booths that they've been saying, which is about double what they needed. It would be an historic victory if Adam Brandt does get it. He would be the first non-Labor member of this seat in over 100 years, and also, of course, the first Greens MP to be elected at a general election. So it's just gone quiet here. Everyone's just moving forward towards the podium now, just waiting for Adam Brandt to come down and to address all of the supporters here. Yeah, we'll bring it to you as soon as we can.
OK, we'll come back to you. Moving forward, perhaps not in the direction of Labor, let's quickly check the figures there of how Labor and the Greens are battling it out in Melbourne, if we can. And Adam Bant, as Bridie was telling us, he's about to make some comments there. OK, here we go. Well, he might be preparing to make some comments. I guess with those Liberal preferences going to him. Let's have a look after preferences. Just under 15% counted, and yeah, those Liberal voters are... Bruce Hawker, the Liberal voters are going to push the Adam Bant for the Greens into Melbourne.
It looks like it. It looks like it. So if there's a hung parliament, that'll make it interesting. People like Bob Catter and the Green in Melbourne sitting in judgment.
And an independent in Denison, perhaps.
That's right. Can I just get you to have a look at Aston as well while we're down in Melbourne, because there's a few seats down here that look interesting. Aston, Dunkley, McKew.
Okay, let's do a whip around Victoria. Aston, 41% now counted. The Liberals in front on that primary vote. Have a look after preferences at how that's going. Sure. And the swing is to Labor. That's going to be too close to call.
We actually have a suggestion that's around about 52% in Aston. So
that's it's a strong result for Labor there in Aston.
It's a very good result so far. Oh, sorry, they say we're on 50. Yeah, so
that's
about the
pretty
same as that.
Similar to that result.
So,
and then the others, we'll have a look at Dunkley while we're there in Melbourne. So some better news for Labor once we get out of that battle with the Greens in Melbourne. Aston was good. Dunkley for Labor is, well, these Greens votes might help, but you can see with 40% of the vote counted, Bruce Bilson ahead on the primary vote to hold on, but after preferences, yeah, he's really being pushed there with a 4% swing to Labor. They're too close to call.
And can we look at La Trobe?
And La Trobe. All right, let's do that. Just further north of Melbourne in the Dandenongs there. We've now got 43, nearly 44% of the vote counted, and Jason Wood's going to be in trouble there. He's in front on that primary vote. Have a look after preferences. Those Greens votes are going to lose that seat for Liberals.
I reckon that's about the first seat we can claim as one for Labor tonight.
As a gain for Labor.
And before we leave, can we just look at Deakin?
Yeah, we'll look at Deakin and then McKew.
Yeah.
Deakin, first of all. All right, so we now got 45% of the vote counted, and this is looking pretty good for Labor. Let's see if it's going to be too close to call.
Not really.
Yeah, too close to call there, but...
Yeah, but you see, and this, David, this is very interesting. What we're seeing Labor losing, a considerable number of seats in Queensland and some in New South Wales.
Yeah.
But the way things are going at the moment, we could pick up La Trobe, Dunkley, McKew, Deakin and Aston.
I think based on what we're seeing with these figures in Victoria and New South Wales alone, it's looking harder and harder for the coalition to win this election. I think if the Labor Party is going to gain seats like Deakin and Aston, not to mention La Trobe and McKew, then it's going to be near impossible for the coalition to win this based on what we've seen in New South Wales and Queensland so far.
I can get plus 10 now, net, roughly.
For the coalition.
To the coalition, and that's giving away McKew, La Trobe and Duncan.
And that's yeah, exactly. Well, let's have a look at McKew while we're there in Victoria. Victoria wasn't talked about a great deal in this election because the changes there were considered so small, but have a look at this. We've now got a third of the vote counted there. After preferences, this is going to go to Labor, you would think, with 54% of the vote counted, too close to call. But Tony Burke...
Corangamite? Because
Corangamite could be the offset. Let's see that. Corangamite is the one where, with Sarah Henderson, the Libs are hoping to pick up just one seat from the Labor Party in Victoria, and
we'd hold that.
We'll hold that.
Yeah, I think with more than half the vote counted. Let's have a look after preferences. Those Greens votes, it's going to be too close to call, but
you gave it to them.
Darren Cheeseman might just hang on there.
Yeah.
So, Fiona Nash, Erica Betts, what do you make of what you're seeing in Victoria tonight?
Well, it's obviously the hometown girl advantage in there, I would say, as well as...
Is it going to cost you the election, I suppose, what we're seeing there?
At this stage, it doesn't look good, certainly. There are a number of seats there that we had to hold or to win if we were going to, across the board, get this up. I think probably John's pretty on the money with his plus 10 net at the moment, which obviously isn't enough. The interesting thing is now going to be, of course, the potentially the 4 independents plus the 1 Green and how that's going to play out.
Bob Hawke, you're famous for the early call. What do you know about, what's your feeling as you look at Victoria, New South Wales and Queensland so far?
I agree with what you said in regard to looking at New South Wales and Queensland and bringing Victoria into it. If that's all it was, you'd say, yes, Labor just, I think. We've got to ask ourselves about South Australia, and I'd like to see some more figures on that. The suggestion beforehand is that we could win 1, perhaps 2
All right.
That was Boothby and perhaps Sturt. If you got one there, well, that would strengthen which would get us back to Western Australia.
Yes, exactly, which we'll see. The polls are about to close in 5 minutes in Western Australia. Let's have a look at it. Let's have a look at those seats in South Australia. Boothby, first of all. Boothby is a seat, Andrew Southcott's seat, that Labor's been hopeful of winning, their most hopeful seat in South Australia. And you can see there that, yes, he's ahead on the primary vote with 12% now counted, but after preferences, this is going to be Labor just in front. Probably too close to call based on that sort of figure.
Not enough yet. The trend that we hoped would be there is at least represented in the figures so far.
Okay. And Sturt, let's see Sturt. This is Chris Pine's seat. A tighter margin for the Liberals, but a stronger campaigner in Chris Pine, and well, he's going to be pushed here as well. Still less than 10% of the vote counted there. Have a look after preferences at how he's going.
It's a bit early, isn't it?
And Chris Pine could be in some trouble there tonight, Erica Betts.
Now, if we picked up those two, you'd say we were there, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look, it was vital for us to hold the seats of Sturt and Boothby on my calculations, and if those trends are indicative of what the end-of-night figures are, and there's no reason to doubt that they won't be, then it does make it look exceedingly difficult.
Notwithstanding that on your screen right now, I reckon there are Labor voters around the country with Foxtel IQ pressing pause, and they're just going to keep that vision in front of them for the rest of the night.
Notwithstanding some big losses for Labor in Queensland that we are going to see, and we are seeing already, Labor's on track to win this election.
Could we have a look at Solomon?
All right, we should have some further results in the Northern Territory for Solomon.
I gave us Solomon.
Yeah, this is going well for the Country Liberal Party.
Yeah, it is.
Have a look after preferences.
10% counted. Have you got any Labor figures, Tony?
I was told there was one booth that had always gone Labor that in fact came to us. Really? I forget the name of the booth now, but it's...
So that could be a coalition going
So
tonight.
I would like to think we might be able to call Solomon.
Yeah, I've got a lot more than that counted. I've got 39% counted, and the CLP are in front at 51%.
Okay.
51%.
So it's a lot tighter than that. It's a lot tighter than that. So, the trend from there, from 13% of the vote counted through to just under 40, we're a lot closer, but we are still behind.
Okay, so too close in Solomon. I'm just going to jot that down. We'll come back to that. Well, the Battleground, Labor's doing pretty well in Victoria then, from the looks of it. The Battleground will be New South Wales and Queensland.
You've been talking about the Rudd factor. I mean, one would have to say the Julia factor has been... reflected in the two home states, South Australia and Victoria.
It's a great thing, isn't it, to have two home states? She has spun that exceptionally well.
Bob Hawke found it very useful.
West Australia,
I was hoping
I think the Brumby factor's important. I think Brumby's important.
Let's get back to New South Wales, perhaps, and see how some of these battlegrounds are going. We'll start from the south and work up. Eden Monero. Let's have a look at the marginal seat there, where David Gazzard is, for the Liberals, fighting against Mike Kelly, the incumbent for Labor. This is going to be very, very close indeed. 30% counted. The bellwether seat. Have a look after preferences. And, that's really close.
But he's held that sort of lead pretty comfortably all night.
Yeah. And does anyone have any mail on where the birds are coming in now? Have we got to Queanbeyan, which will be the Labor stronghold?
The Queanbeyan bird, the biggest Queanbeyan birds will be the last ones.
So they'll favour Labor.
Yeah, but when you look at the results that have come in and you do it booth by booth and you calculate your swings that way, we're actually on 52%, not 51%.
So do you think you might hold Eden Monero?
So at the moment, all the information we have says that we will. The Queanbeyan results that have come in, the Labor vote has held. There's still some very big Queanbeyan booths to come through, but they shouldn't be that different to the smaller ones in the same town.
Let's get then up into Sydney. Lindsay, first of all. Let's try Lindsay in the western part of Sydney. We now have 51% of the vote counted. This is going to be very close indeed. David Bradbury's trailing on the primary vote to Fiona Scott there, but after preferences, with help from the Greens, it's going to be a cliffhanger tonight. Does anyone have any further booth information on Lindsay?
I'm just pulling it up now. Look, booth by booth, our primary vote's gone backwards by 9%. The Libs have gone forward by 2%. On that basis, with what we've got so far, we're in trouble. Possibly we won't know the result in Lindsay tonight.
Yeah. Let's go to Bennelong and have a look at how Maxine McKew and John Alexander are battling it out. In John Howard's former seat, we've now got 36% of the vote counted, and John Alexander's powering ahead, it seems, after preferences. He will be in front, and this might say too close to call, but I think he's going to win that seat, isn't he?
Yeah. I've got that on my list.
Maxine.
Maxine McKew. You campaigned with her throughout this campaign, Bob Hawke.
I did, and quite apart from the obvious partisan feeling I have about it, I feel very personally disappointed for her because she was on such a high after a magnificent achievement.
Got a place in history.
And got a place in history, and so I feel very sorry for her because she has been a good member, but there is no doubt that John Alexander ran a very strong campaign.
And he door-knocked mercilessly. He ran a grassroots campaign.
He door-knocked something like 9,000
Absolutely,
homes,
and I think in the end that cut through, and of course famous name, famous person, great personality, and undoubtedly
he
that
wore
cut
out those
through.
tennis shoes.
To be fair, Maxine also campaigned, with the same vigour as John. But it was a very well-financed campaign. I was out there just a couple of days
and there wasn't
before
any
the poll.
anti-Howard factor this time around.
No, we had a big
the
anti-Howard
factor helped her a lot last time, you would think.
Oh, the anti-Howard factor helped her, yes. I mean, and she had a young, vigorous, well-known personality, sporting personality, and so it was very, very tough for her, and she did very well in the circumstances.
Yeah. Graham Morris?
Look, I think at the moment in New South Wales, the coalition would essentially claim Bennelong, Gilmore, Macquarie and Macarthur. Robertson, Lindsay and Greenway are still in play. So I think there's 4 definitely look as if they've gone, and there are another 3 in play. I can find 8 in Queensland, but Victoria at the moment with maybe 3 down is going to be awkward. So
what does that add up to, Graham?
It adds up to talking very nicely to some independents.
Yeah, although
Bruce Hawker.
we should also be careful about South Australia. It is trending our way in South Australia, but our people on the ground aren't quite so confident that we're going to pick up Boothby or Sturt. So we just need to be cautious at this stage about claiming too many. Although, in having said that, I think in Victoria, seats like Aston and Deakin and Dunkley are looking very strong for Labor too.
Well, yes, we'll come back to Victoria.
Look at
while we're in
Bennelong, Gilmore, Macquarie and Macarthur.
Yes, we'll look at those ones Graham mentioned while we're in New South Wales. Macquarie in the Blue Mountains. Let's see how that now is shaping up. Okay, there it is. We've got 33% counted. And Louise Marcus is, as Graham said, on track to win this seat. Have a look after preferences. She's shifted from Greenway, so she's a well-known local MP and might be too close to call. But Christina Keneally, do you think that one's gone to the Liberals?
Well, look, that one was always going to be tough. It's one where we are incumbents retiring. Louise Marcus is the closest thing you've got to an incumbent. She actually moved with some of her constituents, and it's a seat that we haven't always held. In fact, in its history, it's one of those classic seats that people think is Labor heartland. In fact, it's been more often held by the Conservatives.
And Macarthur was the other one Graham mentioned as well. This to the southwest of Sydney. Let's see that one.
Not looking good in Macquarie.
55% of the vote counted. And the Liberals, Russell Matheson, ahead of Nick Bleasdale there. And he's going to win that one. Tony Burke?
Yeah, I find it hard to see that we're going to get over the line in Macarthur.
So adding up New South Wales at the moment, Lindsay's obviously too close to call, but Bennelong is gone for Labor, Macarthur and Macquarie are gone for Labor. Eden Monero, from memory, was just too tight.
Oh, but it's in tight with us in front.
Gilmore, I think that's a fair analysis.
Yeah, I think that's right. Gilmore, well, the coalition should hold Gilmore. Let's quickly check Gilmore.
Gilmore's a win.
This was one that had a redistribution that made it notionally Labor, but you've got Joanna Gash, a well-known local MP there, who should hold this. 53% of the vote counted. Have a look. Yeah, so Joanna Gash won't have any trouble holding on to that one as expected. But, you know, if you're counting it as a notionally Labor seat, that's a coalition
David,
game.
can we go to Denison, where with 44.63% of the vote counted, it looks as though Andrew Wilkie may well be on track to win the seat. There are the figures before us. The Liberal Party preferenced Andrew Wilkie, and I believe that the Greens will be preferencing Andrew Wilkie quite strongly as well.
Have a look after preferences and how he's going.
Yeah, so
he's probably going to win that.
Yeah, so
we're going to have two new independents.
Another independent there. We'll come back to
Melbourne
looking at the independent breakup later. But while we're in New South Wales, Bruce Hawker, you had a comment on the Greenway. Okay, let's have a look at Greenway. This one in Western Sydney. And we now have, well, 10% of the vote counted there. Why is that so low? OK, but still, it shows that it's a very close contest. Have a look after preferences. And it has Labor. Labor should be holding this seat, though, Bruce.
See, even though it's a Liberal one, in fact, the redistribution gave it about 5.7%
to Labor.
To us, so yeah, it's a tight one. We'll try to get some better information from on the ground there, David.
Yeah.
Graham Morris.
Well, it's a big swing there, and it's just consistent with that ring around Sydney is very, very grumpy with the Labor Party.
Yeah, but you still don't have enough coming out of New South Wales on my count. You're getting Macquarie, Macarthur, Bennelong. But whether you're going to get Lindsay, Gilmore, yes.
Well, yeah. I mean, we can pretend that my seat was in play tonight as one of the tighter margins.
But it was a nationally Labor seat, Graham's right.
Gilmore was nationally Labor.
Nationally Labor, so you can put that as a gain if you're counting that as part of the 17 that the coalition need to get. But it's still very close in Lindsay. It's still very close in Eden Monero with Labor perhaps a whisker in front, but not there yet. And then further up the coast, let's check out Robertson.
Can I just tell you with Greenway, I've got double the results you've got there, and our lead is bigger.
Your lead's bigger in Greenway?
Yeah, you're at 10%, we've got 20% in. You had us at 50 point something, I've got us at 51 point something.
Yeah, well, you've got to hang on to Greenway, you would think. Robertson. Now, we've got just under half of the votes counted there, just under 50%. And Deborah O'Neill's doing pretty well there. She's just trailing by less than 1,000 votes on the primary figures against Darren Jamieson. These Greens votes, let's have a look after preferences at how they stack up.
Yeah, she's going
And she could well hold this seat. It's still going to be too close to call, but Tony Burke, you'd be happy enough with a result. Robertson was supposed to be one of the first pins to fall.
Look, I reckon that what we're seeing tonight is the further away as you leave Sydney, the Labor vote's doing better.
That's right.
And both Robertson and Dobell.
Let's have a look at Dobell.
My readers, we're going to hold both.
Dobell,
absolutely right, Tony.
Just further north, 51% counted. Craig Thompson is going to hold that seat. Let's have a look after preferences. He'll get some of those Greens votes, and yeah, he's picked up a swing to him. Erica Betts, how do you explain that? New South Wales is meant to be rotten for Labor.
Well, clearly there has been a swing. Craig Thompson, the sitting member, I haven't been close to the Dobell campaign as to what happened there, but incumbency clearly has played a factor for Craig Thompson.
Yep.
Page.
All right, well, that's
Can I say, we're getting a consistent result in both the Central Coast seats
for
both Robertson and Dobell, so it's more than incumbency because we only got one incumbent.
Yep.
That's right.
Yeah. Ashley Gillen is with the Julia Gillard camp in Melbourne. Let's cross to Ashley. We're talking about Victoria, where you are, and some very encouraging results for Labor there. It's being hammered in some seats in and around Sydney and in Queensland, but wouldn't seem to me like enough to tip Julia Gillard out of office.
No, it doesn't seem that way, although the crowd that is now starting to gather here at the Melbourne Convention Centre at Labor Party headquarters for campaign celebrations or not tonight isn't really getting ahead of themselves. They're quite calm still at this stage. No one here, any of the Labor sources I've been speaking with anyway, are willing to call it just yet. As I said, the room is starting to fill out, but it is a huge room, and we're not expecting most of the room to fill up until the end of the night. Julia Gillard not expected to be here for another few hours yet. She's actually watching the results unfold in a hotel room here in Melbourne. She's with her family and her partner Tim, but she's told her staffers tonight to prepare for a long night. She thinks that this is going to be a photo finisher. She's been telling us throughout this campaign.
All right, Ashley Gillen, thank you very much for that. Let's go back to some of these Queensland seats because while things are okay for Labor in Victoria in particular. In Queensland, this is going to be interesting to see how many seats fall. The national, or the statewide vote for Queensland, you can see there 58% counted, and they're copping a 9% swing against them, but a lot of that is going to the Greens. They're picking up 6%, so a great deal of that will come back to Labor. The Coalition picking up a 3% swing. Let's see how that's going to look in some of these key seats. Let's start perhaps in and around Brisbane. Brisbane itself, where Arch Bevis and Theresa Gambaro. Let's bring up the Brisbane primary vote. All right, here it is. We've now got nearly 56% of the vote counted. Theresa Gambaro is going to win that seat. Let's have a look after preferences. All right, so that's the projection will be for the LNP to win that. Too close to call, but what do you think, Erica Betts? Would you say that that's going to be a coalition game?
55% of the vote counted. Theresa Gambaro has done exceptionally well. I'm not sure if there are any large booths, inner city booths, that need to come in there, but Theresa Gambaro's clearly done well. If we may later on, I'd be interested in the seat of Ryan, whilst the coalition should hold that. Of course, Michael Johnson was the former LNP member.
Michael Johnson was the LNP member, booted out of the party, running as an independent. He's, for an independent, doing OK, but he's not going to win it. Jane Prentice is going to easily hold that one, so no surprise there after preferences. Yeah,
Jane Prentice came in at a very late stage, and she's done exceptionally well for us.
Yeah, will she win that? I mean, you would think yes.
I would imagine with what, nearly 2/3 of the vote counted.
But would you say from looking at that Michael Johnson has split that Conservative vote there? Has he caused you some trouble there, do you think?
Oh, some trouble, but I understand that he preferenced in favour of us, and in those circumstances it has come back to us.
All right, let's try Petrie and have a look at another Brisbane seat there. OK, Petrie is now with nearly 60% counted, and Yvette Darth is going to hold on there, it would seem, with that sort of primary vote, but she's being pushed a lot by Dean Teasdale. Have a look after preferences and how she's going. Yeah, she's going to hold that with 54% of the vote. Too close to call, but Tony Burke, what do you think of that sort of result at the moment in Petrie? It's a seat you've got to hold.
Look, in Queensland at the moment, for some of the ones we were talking about earlier, I think Petrie, Morton and Blair can be reasonably safely put in our column now.
Yeah.
I think Leichhardt and Brisbane are looking diabolical for us.
Leichhardt
and Brisbane.
And Brisbane we were just looking at,
are looking diabolical for us. And some of the ones that were looking really bad earlier, like Flynn, are starting to look better for us.
All right, well, let's get through some of those. Brisbane we've looked at. Let's see Flynn, first of all, and we'll work our way up through Queensland as we go. Flynn, this is around Gladstone, and 58% of the vote counted there. Chris Trevor is behind on the primary vote to Ken O'Dowd. Have a look after preferences. This is going to be too close to call. All right, but Tony, you were saying you think Flynn...
Oh, look, we're a lot better than we were not long ago, that's all.
OK.
I think the results that I've got at the moment are a tiny bit better than where you are there. We're at 49.5 on what I've got, with slightly more counted.
All right.
It's in play. It looks to me like we will not know the result in Flynn tonight.
David, can we have a look at Wright? That's a brand new seat.
Yeah, OK, let's do that.
Chances are it should be a coalition seat, but I don't have any figures.
Yeah, well, given that it's a brand new seat,
I think you'll be fine.
You should be all right there. It's mostly a rural seat. It's spelt W-R-I-G-H-T. They're plugging that in now. There we go, 64%.
Oh, Scott's done exceptionally well.
Yeah. And then after preferences...
Can we look at Bowman?
OK, yeah, so look, he won't have any trouble there.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at Bowman then. Again, in Brisbane. We'll have a look at Bowman and then Bonner.
You're well in front in Bowman.
Yeah, Bowman, no trouble at all there for Andrew Lamming. He's smashing that vote. After preferences, have a look. He'll hold that. And then Bonner. Let's have a look at Bonner.
He only held that
Bonner's
seat
a
by
neighbouring
100
seat.
votes. He's done well.
And Bonner, 48% counted. Okay, this is going to be a Labor loss, you would think, here for Kerry Ray. Ross Vasta, the former member, getting a decent swing there, probably too close to call.
David, can we just have a quick look at the numbers at the moment? I think the seats that most likely have gone or have definitely gone to the Libs are number 13, which is Bennelong, Gilmore, MacArthur, Macquarie, Bonner, Brisbane, Dawson, Dixon, Flynn, Ford, Herbert and Leichhardt and Longman. To us, we've got McKew, but I suspect that there's Latrobe, Dunkley and Aston probably in that mix as well. And of course, I'm not counting Melbourne as a Labor loss, because I think they would probably support Labor on the floor. But
so you're saying 13 losses for the Labor Party?
But I can sort of see...
But how many gains?
Well, I can sort of see 4 at the moment. And they're all in Victoria. We haven't had a look at South Australia for a few minutes, but I think, as we said before, there's not overwhelming optimism on the ground by our scrutineers in South Australia, but with a bit of luck, they got it wrong.
But but even if before you get to South Australia, you don't gain a thing, with 13 losses and 4 gains, you're only losing a net of 9.
That's right.
And then regardless of what happens in Western Australia and the Northern Territory, where you might lose 3 seats, Solomon, Hasluck and Swan in Western Australia, you're still going to cling on to office.
You cling on.
All right. So you're going to call it yet, Bruce?
No.
Okay. While we're in Queensland...
Will Bob?
While we're in Queensland, let's quickly check some of those mentioned. Bonner we were going to have a look at. Let's see...
It's past 8 o'clock. It's past 8 o'clock.
Come on, Bob.
What do you think, Bob Hawke?
No, don't.
It's still close.
I mean, you're putting a hard one on me.
It's still close.
I've got to depend on West Australia to some extent.
Yeah.
I'm leaning just to Labor at the moment.
Yeah. All right. Let's carry on through Queensland and then we'll get to South Australia. Bonner, a very marginal Labor seat. That, yes, we were looking at that just before. Ross Vasta is going to pick that up, so that was one of the Labor losses tonight. Let's go further north to Longman and have a look at how Wyatt Roy, the 20-year-old Liberal LNP candidate there, is doing. He's just in front. After preferences, though, this is going to be too close to call.
Wow.
What do you think about that, Tony Burke? That one's, as you said, I think in the question mark column.
Yeah, if you're 50 point something and the something's less than a 7, then it's a big call to say you know how that's going to land. Obviously, I'd rather the numbers be the other way around, but it's a big call to presume that we know that. And the votes that come in late, in terms of your extra pre-poll, your postal votes, won't be votes that take into account some of the difficulties we had in that seat in the last 48 hours.
Let's have a look in Ford. This is another one that Labor looks like they've lost tonight. All right, Ford, 69% counted there. And, well, I think this is going to be pretty close. Let's have a look after preferences. Yeah, no, I don't think that one's lost quite yet. We'll put that one in the question mark column as well. And Flynn, up around Gladstone. Let's have a look there. We've now got how much? Well, 60% of the vote counted. And again, this will be close, but it's probably going to be a Labor loss. Oh, no.
Don't forget Herbert when we're going
on. Too close to call. Now, let's move further up the coast then. We'll go Dawson, first of all. Let's have a look at Dawson around Mackay. And it's showing 58% of the vote counted there. And again, this is going to be very close for Mike Brunker, who's trailing on the primary vote there, but after preferences, too close in Dawson.
Picked up a bit, hasn't he?
Herbert, let's go further north to Townsville and have a look at Herbert.
Tony Mooney.
Okay, here it is. Herbert now showing 46% of the vote counted. The LNP in front of the primary vote there. But Tony Mooney will be helped by those Greens preferences. And again, too close to call. And finally, let's check Leichhardt in the top. One that early on looked like Labor would lose and now is showing, almost certainly Warren Ench.
Warren Ench will be back.
Well ahead there. After preferences, the LNP will pick this one up.
Now, David, can we go to Hinkler? That's Paul Neville's seat, a good mate of mine.
All right, let's quickly have a look at Hinkler.
It's been a very marginal seat,
It's
but I think he...
1.5%.
Hinkler. Hinkler, Paul Neville.
It's mostly 1.5.
Yeah, so...
Yeah.
Hey, you're picking ones.
Look at
You just like good ones.
I just,
Picking your mates out of the air now.
I asked for that one to boost myself a
Shall we
bit.
have a look at Tony Burke's seat while we're at it?
We will point out he is an ad.
Let's have a look at Watson. Let's have a look at Watson. Okay, we're going to Watson. We'll check this out for Tony Burke's curiosity. Here he is, Tony Burke. Is he going to get a swing to him or not? Let's have a look after preferences.
Or 9% swing against him.
9% swing against you there, Tony Burke.
Oh. I'm still glad we looked at it.
We'll see later in the night. That is
I prefer the other
9% swing against you. All right, let's go to Canberra, to the tally room. Peter Van Onselen is there with the panel we have there in Canberra. Peter, what do you make of how things are looking at the moment? Good news for Labor in Victoria, but they are copping the expected hits in New South Wales and Queensland, but perhaps not as heavy as we thought, and on track, it would seem, to cling on to office.
Well, that's how it seems to us here as well. There's a bit of conjecture about whether we're talking about a Labor government in its own right, or whether we're talking about something that's more akin to a hung parliament, but with the expectation that with the majority of, or with most of the seats, I should say, the Labor Party's in a position to hang on. They're doing well, as you say, in Victoria. They're doing well, perhaps, in South Australia in the seat of Boothby, but they have their problems in Queensland and they have their problems in New South Wales. We're wondering, and Penny Wong was just saying that she was wondering what's going to happen in Western Australia in particular. That could be very important.
Penny Wong, we won't get many results there for probably another half an hour in Western Australia, but in your state, South Australia, how confident are you about these couple of seats in play, Boothby and Sturt?
Oh, well, as I said previously, I suspect what we will see in South Australia is a lift in the primary vote, a lift in the two-party preferred to Labor. But regrettably, I suspect most of that will be in seats we already hold. And that makes it much more difficult to win seats. Of the two, I think Boothby is the one on the figures so far that looks more of a potential for us. But obviously a tough fight there. I think it's a 2.9% margin, so it's not an easy seat to win, particularly in the circumstances.
So nationally then, from what you've seen, Penny Wong, of what's happening in Victoria, what's happening in New South Wales and Queensland, where we are getting some decent results through now, how do you assess things at the moment? Are you confident? Are you still nervous?
It's a pretty line ball, yes, I'm always nervous, David. It is we are in a very tough fight. We're taking a real hit in Western Sydney, which is as predicted. We're taking a big hit also in Queensland, also as predicted. We're going to have to try and hold a couple of the key marginals in some of those areas, and we are hoping that we can look at some additional seats to be picked up in Victoria.
And what do you think, Penny Wong?
I mean, it's a very tough fight.
And what do you think, Penny Wong, about the Greens on track to win in Melbourne? And we're likely to see Andrew Wilkie get up in Denison as well. This inner city vote going against Labor, how much does that have to do with your issue, the emissions trading scheme?
Oh, there's no doubt that the Greens primary is picked up for a range of reasons, and one of them is what occurred on climate change over the course of this term. It's ironic, as I think I mentioned before, that a party that voted against putting a cap on Australia's pollution is now going to benefit in terms of its primary vote, but that's what has occurred. We've seen that not only in the seats you've mentioned, we've seen that in a range of seats across the country, particularly inner city seats, as you say.
All right, Penny Wong, thank you. And Peter Van Onselen, thank you. You can keep watching Peter Van Onselen and his panel in the tally room on 602, channel 602. We have multi-channel coverage of this election count tonight. Joe Hockey, I'm told, has just given a victory speech in his seat of North Sydney. Not surprising, the result there, but let's hear what he did have to say.
People of North Sydney, thank you so much for re-electing me. I understand it's one of the biggest swings in the country of more than 10%. I also want to thank all of you as Liberals for working so hard for our party over the last 3 years, and not just during the campaign. And I want to pay tribute to my leader, Tony Abbott, for an outstanding campaign. We have offered the people of Australia a proper, mature government. We have offered them an alternative. And whether Julia Gillard is elected or not tonight, it will be trouble and strife in the Labor Party over the next 3 years. And I say to all of you that we stand ready to take the reins of government. Be it tonight, be it in 3 years, we are ready to bring back a proper, mature government that will give the Australian people stability and certainty for the future. In particular, I want to pay tribute to Brian Longman and the entire campaign team. The Labor Party's resources were far greater than what we had. They rolled out union money, they rolled out union workers, they did not have the community with them, and yet they may well steal the election tonight. But I say to you, we are the community party, we are the people that speak for the people, we are the people that can bring back stability and certainty for Australia. I also want to pay tribute to my mate Warren Inch in far north Queensland, who has come back and taken the seat off Labor with the biggest wing in the country.
And that was Joe Hockey declaring victory in North Sydney. No surprise there. But will he be Shadow Treasurer or Treasurer? It seems he's going to still be Shadow Treasurer. In the seat of Melbourne, we've been talking about Adam Bant, the Greens candidate there, who's on track to win this seat. He's talking now live.
In this election campaign that's been conducted across the country, we have seen the major parties tend to play to the worst in us. We have seen some of the world's most vulnerable people used for political gain. We have seen the need to respond to the climate emergency pushed into the too hard basket. And we have seen political leaders denigrate the love between two people just because of their gender. But there's another side to us. There's a side that lends a compassionate and helping hand to people who are in trouble. There's a side that says we have to safeguard our planet for future generations. And there's a side that says we need more love in this world, not less.
Well, Adam Bant, the Greens candidate, and looks like being the Greens member for Melbourne, winning a lower house seat there, it would seem. Some bad news there for Labor in that seat, but across Victoria, things don't seem to be too bad. We'll have a look at some of the seats in play. Deakin, first of all, in Melbourne. Let's see how Labor is going there in this this battle. 66% of the vote counted, and have a look after preferences. It's a swing of 2% to Labor. Too close to call. But Tony, what do you think of that?
Oh, I think we can call.
I'd call that.
If we're not going to call that, we're not going to call anything tonight.
Yeah. I'd call that.
So I think Mike Simon's back.
All right. Aston, let's have a look at Aston. Okay, and well, 65% of the vote counted here, and the Liberals won't be. This is going to be close though, with some of those Greens preferences.
Oh, we're back in town. That's good to see. Yeah. I can scrub Aston off the lost list.
Well, it's now in the too close to call list, I guess.
That's right.
Yeah, all right. And let's have a look at Dunkley.
I think Dunkley's slipping.
All right, so Dunkley, one that Labor was hoping to grab. There's a pretty interesting... OK, 67% of the vote counted there. And Bruce Bilson, a shadow minister, a Liberal frontbencher, after preferences. Let's see how he's going. He's just in front.
That's a nice reversal.
Wow.
But that's still going to be too close.
Yeah.
Trending towards him, though.
The two losses look like...
I think the Victorian situation is...
And in Dunkley, David, I'm told that there are 4,600 postal votes to be counted. And, yeah, I think we're not going to know that one tonight. And in fact, all of them in the last half an hour in Victoria, or three of them, have come back.
Yeah, well, that one certainly has, hasn't it? Well, let's have a look then at some of the others. Latrobe. Let's have a look at Latrobe and then McKew and Latrobe. One that the Labor Party was hoping to pick up. OK, well, Jason Wood is ahead on that primary vote. Have a look after preferences, though. He is behind now with 65% of the vote counted. Too close to call still, but Graham, I guess that one looks like he should be doing better than that.
I think Labor's be more likely to be winning as a Labor candidate.
But it has moved, so it
moved back towards Jason Wood, you think?
That's right, and there is some tiger country in there.
OK. And McEwen, just further north, let's have a look at that. Coalition's most marginal seat in the country is going to be lost, definitely.
Yeah, that's definitely
let's have a look after preferences. And Rob Mitchell will become the Labor member for McEwen based on that. Yep. So at this stage, you can say with confidence, well, let's have a look at Corangamite as well if we can. There's one certain Labor win there in Victoria. Latrobe's pretty close. All right. Corangamite. OK.
That's
So
Labor.
Corangamite is...
It's Labor. It's held.
Yeah, Darren Cheeseman's going to hold that. Have a look after preferences. Sarah Henderson was a good candidate for the Liberals, but it'll probably say too close, but I think he's going to...
She has clearly restricted the swing towards Labor.
Yeah, but not enough to win.
No,
not enough to win that seat.
But she's,
so summing up...
something for the money.
But she's...
signs are everywhere.
Two losses.
Okay.
McEwen and...
Latrobe.
You think Latrobe's gone?
I would think there'll be two losses in Victoria.
Yeah, Graham, you were saying you think Latrobe is still a chance for...
I do think it's still
for
there.
Jason Wood?
Yes,
Right.
and depending on postal votes and depending on just a couple of booths there, depending on whether or not they've come from the environmental sort of area or the suburban area.
Well, Labor is ahead at the moment.
Yeah. OK, we'll keep a question mark on Latrobe.
Can we look at Goldstein?
Yeah.
Sure.
No, because there's a lot of talk about
There was
this
some
seat.
talk about Gold's... Oh,
No, he's going to walk it.
well.
He's going to walk it.
Yeah, Andrew's done well.
Why is Andrew Robin any trouble suddenly? Tony Beck, your thoughts on Victoria?
Look, Dunkley and Aston, until counting started tonight, certainly weren't on my radar. We didn't focus on them when we went across the country. So if they come off for us, or even the fact that they're in play, means that Victoria has been a much stronger result than what people thought. What we can be pretty sure of with Victoria is there'll be 2 seats from the coalition that'll go to Labor and 1 seat from Labor that will go to the Greens.
Yeah, so 2 seats, one being McKew and the other one might be Latrobe. Let's have a look at Dunkley as well, but one going to the Greens, which could be handy in a hung parliament situation. So Dunkley was Bruce Bilson, and after preferences... Yeah. But you still think you'll pick up either that one or Latrobe?
Look, I think McEwen and Latrobe are looking...
They're the two.
I think we'll win those two.
And Dunkley, OK.
Yeah.
Now let's have a look. Bruce, did you have a final comment on Victoria? We'll go to South Australia in a moment. But
Deakin.
Yeah, Deakin.
I think is very definitely in the Labor column now. So I reckon it's 2, possibly 3 and more in Victoria at this stage.
Sorry, 2 gains for Labor.
We're not counting Melbourne.
No. So the consensus seems to be you'll win 2, lose Melbourne to the Greens. But at least that's not going to the coalition column for Labor. Let's go across to South Australia and see if it's been a couple of hours since the close of polls in South Australia. Boothby, first of all, Labor's greatest hope in South Australia. OK, here it is. We've now got 48% of the vote counted, and Andrew Southcutt's leading on the primary vote there, but perhaps not by enough, because have a look after preferences here, and he's trailing just. It'll be too close to call there. Anyone have any further booth results on Boothby that's going to change that? But yeah, that one too close to call. And Sturt, where Chris Pine earlier in the night was in some trouble there. It's a tighter margin. OK, 48% of the vote counted. This is going to be very close indeed. He is ahead on the primary vote after preferences. He'll probably still be in front. Yeah, he is.
Can we stop the count there?
Too close, but He's looking better than he was an hour ago.
And he'll
Chris
get the
Pine.
postals. So.
Do you still want them to stop it there, Tony?
Let's go. We have to go to David Lipson. He is with Kevin Rudd tonight in the seat of Griffith, and the room's filled up there. David Lipson. Any sign of Kevin Rudd yet?
David, I'm told that Kevin Rudd is about 10 minutes away from arriving here. Certainly everyone here is waiting keenly for his arrival. Just about 5 minutes ago, someone accidentally leaned on one of the light switches and the room was plunged into darkness, and everyone thought that was the moment that he was going to arrive, but no, it wasn't. But sometime in the next few minutes, we're told that Kevin Rudd will be arriving here. And he's going to mingle a bit with some of the crowd here and then get up on the podium to my right and have a word to the troops here.
Okay, well, David, thank you. In 10 minutes, we'll come back. Let's quickly look at Griffith, guys, if we can, just see how those figures were that David was talking about. No? All right, in the meantime, we'll go to Helen Daly in the seat of Bennelong. Helen, Maxine McKew, we were saying earlier, looks like she's lost this. You're there with the Liberal supporters. For John Alexander, they must be feeling pretty pleased.
Look, David, it was interesting. An hour and a half ago here at the Ride Ex-Services Club, the room was pretty much empty, but in the last hour and a half, it has filled up, and they've been a pretty rowdy crowd for their boy. They're very excited about John Alexander, looking like he's going to win. I can tell you the latest counting information that we're getting from this end is that 18 of 47 booths have been counted, so obviously not quite halfway yet, but the average swing to John Alexander is 5.5%. We're also hearing that Maxine McKew is now on her way, the sitting member, looking like the member who's going to concede. She's now on her way to where I was at the Panthers Club in West Epping. So, look, it's a really joyous occasion here for the supporters of John Alexander. In a sense, the great tennis player, one of Australia's greatest Davis Cup players, has been, he's been used to amazing challenges on the tennis court, win, lose battles and back and forth, nail-biting battles. And I think a lot of tennis players out there would remember his battle with Adriano Panetta in the Davis Cup final, the Italian player. It was a tremendous match, I'm told. I was not there. In the mid-70s, this guy is used to competition. He's a very competitive man. He's a very ambitious man, and now he's turned his talents to politics. It looks like he will be claiming victory tonight from what had been Labor's giant slayer, Maxine McKew, who unseated John Howard at the 07 election. But here, John Alexander's supporters at the Ride Ex-Services Club, they're very thrilled about their guy. They think it has been local issues, but as I said earlier, David, there have been some national issues and some state issues. And it was interesting hearing Maxine McKew. One of her last comments today was that she hoped that voters would look at the individual credibility of individual candidates, and she didn't name Julia Gillard. She, of course, couldn't name her own mentor, Kevin Rudd, and nor could she claim that it was a seat that she was going to be able to win. She's known it's been tight, and it's very much looking that way. Back to you, David.
Thanks, Helen. Let's have a look at the figures there for Bennelong. This is one that's going to be a disappointment for Labor, because John Alexander there on that primary vote is
very strong. Yeah,
very strong indeed. Have a look after preferences, and yeah, he's really picked up a healthy swing there. So that one, a confident Liberal again in New South Wales. The other seats, though, that are going to change hands in New South Wales, Macquarie and then Macarthur. Macquarie in the Blue Mountains. Let's have a look at this. Bruce Hawker earlier said this one was gone. Bruce, 50% of the vote counted there. Louise Marcus, an MP who shifted from Greenway into Macquarie. Have a look after preferences. She's going to win this seat. Well, close.
It's tightened up, actually, David.
Right.
But maybe there's some solid booths there.
I wouldn't write that one off.
You don't think that one's gone yet?
No, not quite
I said
yet.
before, you really want to know where those votes were coming from, because it's a very variegated election.
The other one,
I'm not saying we're going to win it, but it's
close.
It's in
close.
play.
All right. And Macarthur as well, we should look at too, to the southwest of Sydney. The primary votes there.
No.
No chance.
That's gone.
No, yeah.
Have a look after preferences.
No.
Russell's won that.
Good.
Yeah.
Look at Lindsay again.
Well, it's saying too close, but what does everyone think about Macarthur?
Russell.
Gone?
Gone.
Gone.
gone for them, come to us.
Okay. Let's have a look at Lindsay.
And Greenway.
All right. Lindsay, in around Penrith in Western Sydney, 72% of the vote counted there. Look at how close these two are. David Bradbury, I think, has come back a bit in the last half hour. Have a look after preferences. He's pulling in front there.
Yep.
That's a good.
Yeah, that's Fiona Nash. What do you think about that?
What about
that's way too close to even think about calling it this
Greenway?
stage.
But it has slipped because the last time we looked at it, Fiona Scott was clearly
and
ahead.
now it's 72% counted. He's picking up ground. Greenway as well. This is the one in Western Sydney that had a redistribution, made it about a 5% Labor seat, but without a sitting member. Hard to read. That's saying 12% of the vote counted in Greenway, which...
so I've got 66% of the vote counted in Greenway. And on the two-party preferred, we're on 52.
Good.
52%.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Greenway you kind of need to hold, I suppose. So, all right. So that's Lindsay neck and neck, but David Bradbury coming back a bit. Greenway likely to stay in Labor hands. Then you're going to lose MacArthur. Macquarie's too close. Let's have a look at the statewide result for New South Wales and see. Yeah, so you've got a 5% statewide swing against Labor.
You're right.
Yeah.
All right, and
Have another look at Eden Monero.
The Greens might not.
And Eden Monero. Let's check Eden Monero. This one around near the ACT, around Queanbeyan, down onto the south coast. And again, look at how neck and neck they are on the primary vote. But Mike Kelly will pick up these Greens' preferences. Have a look after the two-party result there. And he's pulling in front as well in Eden Monero.
Hey, look, you've been at great reluctance all night to show us a result for Griffith. Is there a ban on it, or could we have a seat?
We can go to Griffith. Let's go to Griffith, see Kevin Rudd's result. There it is. Kevin Rudd, 66% of the vote counted.
That'd be a swing. Oh, swing against.
Yeah, 4% swing against him. That perhaps isn't as
factor?
that perhaps isn't as bad as some of the other swings in Queensland, though, is it?
No, of course
not as bad as what I copped.
That was the run factor, Tony.
But he'll be all right. Let's just go back to Eden Monero, because it looked to me like Mike Kelly was starting to pull in front there.
I've got Eden Monero in our column now.
I think Eden Monero is staying over,
safe.
Yeah. I think the question now is whether or not Eden Monero is still a bellwether seat. That's the bit we don't know. But I think it's pretty clear Mike Kelly's won.
What you're saying there is you don't know whether Labor's got this in the bag yet nationally.
That's right.
Yeah.
What do you think, Robertson, Bob? Again?
I'm
still
edging more towards Labor.
All right. Laura Jays is in the seat
How long before we can get a figure from somewhere in West Australia?
Well, we should get something very soon, in fact, because the booths have been closed there for almost 45 minutes. Let's just check in with Laura Jays. She's talking to Mike Brunker in Dawson, in the seat of Dawson in North Queensland. Laura.
Thanks, David. Yes, Mike Brunker, he is the candidate for the ALP. James Bidgood is, of course, the sitting member, but he's retiring. At the moment, Mike, what is your feeling? It looks like there's a 2% or 2.6% swing to the LNP at the moment, and it could get a little worse. What's your feeling?
Well, we've held it with 2.6%, so obviously it's going to be close. We've had record pre-polls and record postal votes, so we're not writing it off yet. We're still hanging in there, and hopefully if we can hold on, we'll still hold the seat.
If you do lose this seat, though, who will you be looking to? Would it be Julie Gillard and her campaigning on a national level, or is it the campaign that you ran at a local level? Is there any blame we can apportion?
I don't think so. At this stage, it's all about counting the votes. I hope to get over the Endergrove Tavern here in Mackay tonight to have a beer with me supporters. But look, that'll all take place in the oncoming days. You know, they'll work out what's happened. But look, we run a great positive campaign here. Copped a lot of negativity from the other side, but look, at the end of the day, we're very happy at the campaign we run here, and we'll see how it pans out at the end of the day.
All right, Mike, we'll have to leave it there, but this seat we'll be keeping a very close eye on in the next hour or so, and it's one of those North Queensland seats that is a marginal and one of those seats that could go to the LNP.
All right, Laura, thank you. We'll go from Queensland across to Western Australia and have a look at a couple of seats there. We'll go Hasluck then Swan. Hasluck is a seat that... Sharon Jackson, nothing, no results. The booths have only been closed for...
We won't get anything from any of the WA seats.
Nothing yet.
David, I just got a phone call in Cowan, an 8% swing in one booth, two-party preferred, and in Stirling 9%. Just one booth in each. Yeah, just got a phone call then from the West, from former Senator Chris Ellison, so just one booth in each. Too early, but it would indicate a fairly significant swing.
All right, we'll come back to Western Australia when we do get a few more results out of there, but perhaps we should check in on Solomon in the Northern Territory and see which way that one's going. Solomon, a Labor seat that tonight looks like going to the Coalition. Natasha Griggs there, just over 40% of the vote counted. Have a look after preferences at how that looks. And, it'll probably be too close still, but I think she's on track to win that. Bruce Hawker?
Our scrutineers say we've lost Solomon David, so I don't think there's any prospect there. But the seat of Greenway, just jumping back to Sydney, our scrutineers say that we're on 51.5 to 48.5% in Greenway, so that's looking pretty good for Labor, but Solomon's gone.
And the other one to pick up, because a couple of the early seats are not going to fall, I think there was a little bit of hope for the Nats in Page, but at the moment it's not going to go. And also the early mail in Western Australia is that the Libs are very worried about Wilson Tucky.
Oh, maybe we should look at that. I mean, I probably wouldn't have any results in yet, but O'Connor, let's have a look at O'Connor in the West. It would be very early days there in the count. So less than 1%.
Go the Nats.
But he is in front there, Fiona Nash.
He is indeed. Look, it's been a very, very
Oh, sorry to interrupt you. Kevin Rudd's just arrived. He's talking in Griffith. Let's go there live now. Supporters in Griffith cheering him on, and doesn't he look pleased to be back in as the member for Griffith. But I'm sure tonight he would have had other dreams of perhaps being returned as Prime Minister, apart from the events of 8 weeks ago. But he does have a loyal band of followers who, as you can see, are wearing yellow T-shirts there. Vote 1 Kevin Rudd. No Labor Party logo at all. Bob Hawke, what do you make of that? A former PM not having a Labor Party logo inside?
Oh, I think he just assumed that everyone knew he was Labor.
Very kind and
Turn it
diplomatic.
You don't see this as Tony Burke. You see this as a bit of a slight. No Labor logos there for Kevin Rudd in such a,
Oh, that's consistent with... You go back through Kevin's campaigns in Griffiths over the years, you'll see that that's fairly standard in that seat. It's what he's always done. But I think if anyone didn't know he was a member of the Labor Party, they'd be... I think most Australians have worked that out. It's a bit superfluous.
All here tonight in support of and in solidarity with the person who said sorry to the stolen generation. As President of Kevin's Griffith Executive, may I salute each and every branch member and supporter here tonight for the great work you've all put in over the last 5 weeks. The street stalls, the postal votes, the signs, being on the polling booths today and everything else. Thank you one and all. With your indulgence, could I say a big thank you, and you shouldn't make special mentions and special examples, but could I say a big thank you to Ray Smith, right there, and his terrific wife, Hazel Smith. Ray is 78 and Hazel is definitely older than 21. These two stalwarts have been doing anything and everything every day in this campaign. Ray and Hazel, you give a new dimension to the expression true believers. Tonight is the 5th consecutive time Kevin has been elected as the federal member for Griffith. In terms of history, Kevin is one of the very few ALP federal members who have led our great party from the wilderness of opposition to the Treasury benches. That is the toughest and hardest way to win an election. It's important to note here tonight that Kevin is a great party man. What better proof of that do any of us here tonight or throughout this great nation need than to be acutely aware of how and what Kevin did when he got out of the Mater Hospital, which incidentally is in the Griffith electorate. It was there before Kevin became the member. And having his gallbladder out. After that gallbladder operation, Kevin then campaigned as a Labor team member in Bonner, Moreton, Longman, Herbert, Flynn and Ford, as well as campaigning in New South Wales and Victoria. That was a tough ask, because anybody who's been through what he went through would realise that the physical challenges there were enormous. But he kept going and did not let one person down within the totality of the Labor Party in all of Australia. Kevin, you are indeed the real deal and a true champion. Kevin is here with his family, with his terrific wife, Therese. The very handsome Marcus. Who I am reliably informed from Canberra sources has a big future in the entertainment industry, if he so desires. You can talk to him about taking orders. Elder son Nicholas is here. Nicholas just got engaged. Daughter Jessica is here. Great family. So is her husband, an outstanding international banker, Mr. Albert. I happen to like Jessica a hell of a lot. She's a terrific human being. She's a new novelist. She's a new novelist. Her first book is called Campaign Ruby. It's on sale. It's a terrific read, and I understand it's available at a good bookstore near you. Now it is my great pleasure, friends, one and all, to introduce a truly great Australian citizen, Kevin Rudd.
Friends, one and all, before I make remarks about our election today, for all Australians and for those here in this room tonight, let us remember grieving families for those who have lost loved ones in Afghanistan. These are the courageous sons of Australia. Let us never forget them or their families. Members of our local community, members of the great Australian Labor Party. Today, right across our nation, we have had hundreds of candidates and members, thousands of our party members, tens of thousands of our members and supporters out there in the field of battle, standing for the cause of Labor as we have stood for 100 years. You, here in this room, and all of them across Australia, are the standard bearers of our movement. standard bearers for the values for which we have stood for more than a century. Values of a fair go for all. Values of decency and compassion for those who need a helping hand. And values of building our great nation, Australia. Values for which we have stood since the first federal election was held in 1901. I would salute each and every one of those standard bearers across our nation today. Standard bearers who have stood in the line of battle and have seen members fall and have seen candidates doing it tough, really tough. I say to each and every one of them that they do our movement proud, and let us stand by them. I would like to thank the good people of Griffith. This is a wonderful community, and I am proud once again to be able to represent it in the Parliament of the Commonwealth of Australia. I thank the good people of Griffith. This is a wonderful community. The people who represent the PNFs, the PNCs, the local sporting groups, who I've got to know now over a decade and a half and more, they are the heart and soul of our community, and their type makes up the heart and soul of Australia. I thank them for the honour of representing them in our Parliament. Friends, my scrutineers tell us that in this electorate of Griffith, in what has been a hard election, we have taken a swing against us of between 1% and 2%. I'm told also by our scrutineers that the Liberals have suffered a primary vote swing against them of 1%. I'm told by our scrutineers that our margin here will be north of 60%. This is a good thing for the Australian Labor Party. That result is possible because of each and every one of you. Those of you who have stood with me and my family in each election of the 5 elections I've contested, and the first one way back when, which I contested and lost. Because each of you have helped build up our identity in this community as a party, as a movement, and as a group of people who are concerned about the interests.
All right, we've lost that line there from Kevin Rudd, but clearly pleased to be returned as the member for Griffith and reflecting there on the fair go, decency and compassion that his supporters were standard bearers of. Not sure about the fair go, decency and compassion that he feels he's received from his Labor colleagues, but he's back as a Labor MP, and it certainly didn't sound from that like he was intent on going anywhere. He wants to be part of a Labor team. Maxine McKew in the seat of Bennelong looks like she has lost tonight. She's been speaking just a few minutes ago. Here's a little of what she had to say.
Maxine, some of your supporters have described feeling shattered tonight. You must be feeling similarly the same.
Yeah. Look, obviously this is a very difficult night for the Labor Party. A lot of the class of 2007 have lost their seats, and of course I'm among them. I was on a wafer-thin margin, and it's particularly tough because people here tonight fought the good fight in 2007. Of course, we claimed a historic victory, but we've not been able to prevail tonight. So yes, it's extremely disappointing for all of our supporters here.
Would you have won this seat if Kevin Rudd hadn't been knifed?
Well, you cannot have a Labor leader removed within 2 months of an election for it not to have significant ramifications. So look, clearly that was a factor.
So Maxine McKew, it seems they're acknowledging that the execution of Kevin Rudd was a factor in her losing this seat of Bennelong tonight, which she's just conceded is gone. Now, looking at how things are placed nationally, it's looking like a very, very close result, as predicted. Tony Burke, take us through where you think Labor now stands at this point.
Okay, for the sake of argument, let's say that Denison is going to an independent, for the sake of argument. That means there's 5 independents.
Yep. The 3 that currently exist, Greens winning Melbourne and Andrew Wilkie in Denison.
Or a Green or someone, but if the preference flows are tight against Labor, then an independent will win there in the seat of Denison. I've got Labor on the basis of the results we've had so far on 70 seats. That means where we're at now, and I think there's a consensus about the seats, I can run through them in a moment, but that means we are at a point now where Tony Abbott could still be Prime Minister, but not with a majority of the Parliament.
So you're saying it's impossible for the coalition to win a majority government?
You need 76 seats to get a majority. 70 have already gone to Labor. 5 look like they've gone to independents. So there's not 76 seats left.
Yep.
Now, in New South Wales, I've got us with Dobell, Page, Eda Monero and Robertson. In Victoria, I've got us with Corangamite, Deakin, McKew and Latrobe. In Queensland, I've got us with Petrie, Morton and Blair. And in Tasmania, I've got us with Bass and Braddon. Now, that gets us to 70, and I don't think any of those are outrageous calls on the margins. Of what's left, for us to form a majority government, we need 6, and that's not easy either.
6 out of a number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 or 15? 15 undecided seats. You need to get 6
to be able to get a majority government.
Right.
Now, bear in mind, of the seats that are in Queensland, Dawson, Herbert, Longman, Bonner, Ford and Flynn, on the latest figures I've seen, we are behind in each of those. Now, some of those are quite close margins, and Ford, for example, we've been coming back during the night, but they are tight margins, and we're currently behind. But I cannot see any way at the moment that Tony Abbott forms a majority in the House of Representatives. I can see ways that he forms a minority government if everything that's left goes bad for us, but I think the chances of a majority coalition government are no longer there.
We're about to hear David Bradbury in Lindsay, as you can see. In the meantime, Erica Betts, do you disagree with that at all, that you can't get a majority government for the coalition?
On the current figures, I think that's a fairly objective analysis, but you never know. Some seats may swing, and let's wait and see what happens in
Let's see
Western
what David Bradbury's saying in Lindsay.
Thanks very much, Terry. Friends, it's great to be here. The voice is only just holding up, so bear with me. But I really just wanted to begin tonight by paying tribute to the 2 soldiers that we lost in Afghanistan. I have to say to you that over the last 24 hours or so, I've read a lot in the papers, I've seen a lot on TV about my own political mortality. And you can get very absorbed with the here and now, and I was out there on the polling booth right up till 6 o'clock tonight. But when I heard that news, I have to say that it put things in perspective. And I want to pay tribute to those soldiers that paid the ultimate sacrifice in defence of their nation. I say that because I think that service to the nation is important. And whilst I'm not seeking to make any comparisons between activism in political or public life with those that risk their lives in defence of our nation and its values, I do believe that public service is something that we should look up to, something that is noble, and something that we should aspire to. And for 11 years now, I've represented our local community, and I've done that because I think that you can make a difference. And I have been able to make a difference I've been able to make a difference as a councillor and as a mayor. I've been able to make a difference as a member of a federal Labor government. Now, tonight, I'll go to bed not knowing whether or not my service to the community as an elected representative will continue. But can I say that each and every moment that I've been privileged to serve as a representative of this community, I've treasured. I've thrown myself into it with 110%, and I think that I've made a difference.
Well, David Bradbury there, clearly it's been an exhausting campaign for him and it's not over yet. As you heard there, things are on a knife edge. Have a look at the vote, the latest vote in Lindsay. You can see there how David Bradbury and the Liberals' Fiona Scott are neck and neck on the primary vote. These Greens preferences, have a look after they're distributed based on the last election result. He's just a nose in front, but it'll be too close to call and we won't know that, it wouldn't seem, tonight. A couple of other seats in and around Sydney that we need to look at. Greenway is one that's still in the too close to call column. This is one that was a Labor seat on about 5% after a redistribution. Okay, these seat numbers we've got a problem with. Okay, we'll have to come back to that. We do have a problem with Greenway.
It's more than that.
But Macquarie...
I've got more.
Hang on. What's your result on Greenway?
On Greenway, I've got 74% counted.
Yep.
And we're at 51.5.
So still close, but your nose in front in Greenway.
But we've come a lot further in Greenway than we would have ever anticipated before tonight.
But it's not the Western Sydney wipeout that we were talking about an hour ago.
Macquarie, we'll have a look at Macquarie in the Blue Mountains. This one, apparently some moved back to Labor. See there, 63%. Well, Louise Marcus was, well, she's still in front on the primary vote comfortably, but have a look after preferences. Yeah, it would seem things have tightened up there a little.
That doesn't seem right to me.
What do you think? What's happening in Christina Keneally? What's happening there?
Well, look, I would not dare to call Macquarie at this point, although I'm pretty impressed with the way Susan's pulling back into contention there. Look, I've got to say we are just not seeing the result that was being predicted in New South Wales. It's been a much better vote, to be sure. We're still not home yet. But I think what we're seeing is very much a Kevin factor in Queensland. There are a whole range of seats in Queensland that really will make the difference between a majority government, a minority government. The results in New South Wales, in fact, I think have been better than most people would have predicted and going into tonight. That being said, we'll wait and see on Greenway. I'm concerned about it. Michelle is an excellent candidate. But it's really pleasing to see her pulling ahead there.
Okay. So the New South Wales vote, Erica Betts, do you think is disappointing for the coalition at all? Or?
Well, it's clearly been patchy. It'd be interesting to see Greenway, the swing towards us there. And according to the state figures we're just being shown now, 4% swing towards us, 6% swing against Labor. That's a very good and healthy swing for us, but not quite enough to get the seats that we needed, such as Robertson.
David, that's very interesting, the Greens. It's showing they're only up 2% to 10%. It was predicted to be a lot higher than that, so that's a very interesting result there.
Yeah, it certainly tightened up, it seems, in the final days of the campaign.
And if that's translating into the Senate vote, with a very high-profile Green candidate running, the Greens would be disappointed with that result, I would have thought.
Graham Morris?
I see on the screen you're claiming up to 7 seats. The Liberals are claiming up to 7 seats in New South Wales, and we've sort of only agreed on 3 of those, Gilmore, MacArthur and Bennelong. We've still got Macquarie, Lindsay, Greenway, Robertson in the balance. Eden Monero we've given away, I think, in that sense. So I'm not sure how those numbers tally up. Maybe
I don't think.
Let's check Robertson if we can in New South Wales before we go and see what's happening there. Graham Morris, your comment?
That at the moment, Tony Burke is right. The coalition cannot win in its own right.
Right.
But if we have and the coalition actually needs all 3 in Western Australia to fall its way to possibly talk to the independents, and the first figures, sensible figures in from Hasluck, show a slight swing to the Liberal Party.
All right, we're just looking at Robertson at the moment, which saying too close, but Labor wouldn't be too unhappy, Bruce Hawker, with that result.
David, we're actually told that we're feeling pretty comfortable in Robertson on the ground up there. I don't think we should be putting that in the
so the only definite losses, Bruce,
category.
in New South Wales for Labor are Gilmore,
Bennelong
and MacArthur.
MacArthur, just three.
Yeah,
yeah,
which isn't bad.
No,
remarkably.
But we've still got tight contests in Macquarie, in Greenway, and in Lindsay.
Yeah, and can I just throw in
Robertson.
one added factor? Just the information's just come to me. Apparently, Andrew Wilkie in Denison needs 70% of the Liberals' preferences to get in front, and currently he is falling just shy of that. Now that's where that's at. I think I think Denison will be one of the final seats we know the result in.
Yep. All right. Let's have a look at some of those others that are still pretty close. In Victoria, perhaps, before we go to Queensland, let's have a look at Dunkley and then Aston. So Dunkley, first of all, in Melbourne. All right. Bruce Bilson's seat there, 75% counted. Have a look after preferences at how that's going for him, and far too close to call. And Aston, let's have a look at Aston as well. And again, here you've got 75% counted. It's going to be very close as well after preferences. Well,
I don't think we'll get that.
Yeah, I think the Liberals will hold that one.
Hold that, I think.
Yeah, I think that's
right. I think the most realistic assessment in Victoria is 2 seats. I think we'll get McKew and Latrobe.
McKew and Latrobe.
That's right, I agree.
You might get Dunkley, but it's still a push.
Long shot. The way I read it, and speaking to some of the people in the office, they're tending to think 9 losses in Queensland, only 3 definite ones in New South Wales, the ones we've talked about, and the 3 in place still, of course, are Macquarie and Lindsay and Greenway.
Macquarie, Lindsay and Greenway.
They're not looking too bad.
Robertson, you'll hold on to, you reckon?
Yeah, sure. I don't think there's any doubt about Robertson. So if you said 9 and 3, it's a loss of 12 in Queensland and New South Wales. Pick up 2 in Victoria. That gives you 10. Net loss of 10. Now, with Tasmania, if it does go to the independent, he would be inclined Labor's way. I think if you're getting to having to think about a hunger situation. And South Australia, whereas before you were talking about, I don't think we can be definite about any gain there in South Australia at the moment. So that means with the national 88, Labor's got to lose, can lose 12, which would leave it with 76, which would leave it with a functioning appointing a speaker.
Yep.
75 on the floor on the speaker, so that would give them a functioning majority. So on the figures I was going, so that had 10.
Yep.
That's Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria.
Yep. And South Australia.
And South Australia leaving it nothing. If we picked up one, that'd be a plus. So, as I've said a long time ago, it's Western Australia which is going to decide it. But for what Tony's saying, right, for the Libs, or the coalition, to get to position in their own right, they've got to pick up 3 in Western Australia, net 3.
Bruce Hawker?
I think we just need to have a bit of a chat about the independents, Catter, Windsor and Oakshott.
Yep.
They all come from the National Party, but they've all got big problems with the National Party. It's unclear to me where they're likely to go. I know that they do come from Conservative electorates, and that's an issue. But it'll be very interesting to see what they're thinking tonight, and how that's possibly going to play out. Because at this stage, it does look like the most likely scenario is a hung parliament, and they've all won their seats quite comfortably.
As soon as you can,
then
David,
Melbourne
have a
perhaps
look at
does.
Hasluck in Western Australia.
Let's have a look there at Hasluck then. Let's see if we've got any further results in the west. Hasluck first of all, and then we'll go to Swan. So Hasluck, well, Sharon Jackson there is trailing on that primary vote to Ken Wyatt, who's vying to become the first Indigenous member of the lower house. We've got just over 10% of the vote counted after preferences. Yeah, Ken Wyatt looks like he'll pick that up, but too close still at the moment. But on that early count there, that would be a gain for the Liberals.
Yep. Actually, that's not... I'm saying here has been too close to call, David, actually.
Yeah, it is. It's saying too close to call.
Yeah.
11% counted.
Well, only 11% counted, but the trend is with Ken Wyatt. And Swan, let's have a look at that.
Swan and Sterling.
County.
All right, so Steve Irons there is leading on the primary vote. Have a look after preferences. Yeah, well...
That's only 7%.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call that yet. What about Sterling?
And let's have a look while we're there at Sterling and then Canning.
Yeah.
So Sterling, let's see that. And Michael Keenan, 20% counted. He'll have no trouble there.
No.
That'll be fine.
No.
How do we get that?
That's not... That can't be right. Okay. And let's have a look at Canning.
I don't think
The primary vote had Michael Keenan well in front, so I don't think he's in too much trouble. This is the seat that Labor had some hope of. 8% counted. Have a look after preferences.
I would certainly not give that one away yet. I mean, I know it looks a large gap at this stage, but she was an outstandingly successful minister in the state government and did a lot. Brought a lot into the electorate.
She actually delivered a
lot to the electorate. Delivered a lot to the electorate.
David, can we go and have a look at O'Connor before we leave?
While we're still in the west, let's see O'Connor. The battle between the Libs, Wilson Tuckey, and the Nationals. Here it is.
Let's have a look at that, O'Connor.
Okay, we've still got only 3% counted, or less than 3%. Wilson Tuckey pulling in front, but very early days and very close result after preferences. Have a look there.
Tony Burke, can you tell us...
who's Labor preference?
Yeah, Labor, exactly my question.
Do you know? The Nats or the Libs?
I suspect the Nats, but I don't know, but I'll find out.
Yeah, if you could, that'd be interesting.
All right, so that one's going to be... That'll be interesting to watch throughout the night.
My goodness, there you've got it, between the Liberal Party and the National Party.
Absolutely.
Where's Labor in all this? Where's Labor in all this?
All right, well, let's look at these half a dozen seats in Queensland where there are about 6 seats that are going to be very interesting to watch. Dawson, first of all. Let's go to Dawson around Mackay. Now, we've got 74% of the vote counted there. And as you can see, Mike Brunker is trailing by about 3,000 or so on the primary vote after preferences. He is...
he's pulled ahead
since
last time.
Come back a long way.
Down seat tonight.
Yeah. Dawson,
He's hanging on to his good booths, isn't he?
Yeah.
So is this one going to be an LNP win?
I think so on those figures, and it's trending back towards us, given that I think earlier it was 50 point something. So for him,
Bruce Hawker, is that gone for Labor?
Our people on the ground are very pessimistic about Dawson now.
I would think it'd be very difficult to hold.
Okay.
David, that's very interesting. Our Nat seats right across have been holding up brilliantly. We've had huge swings to all the incumbents. George Christensen will actually sit with the Nationals when he comes down, as will Flynn if we're successful there. So the Nationals have had a very good result right across.
Yep. The other seat up there, Herbert. Let's see how Herbert's tracking.
Think of the Nash factor.
Seat around Townsville. Now got 76% counted, and this is looking very close indeed for Tony Mooney. He's going to need a good preference flow here because, he is behind.
That's shifted a lot.
That shifted.
And I must say, I did not have Herbert in my list of wins.
You should have.
Bruce Hawker's saying you should have. Bruce, that's gone now.
I think it's going to be tough. Yeah, very tough.
And you've still got the defence vote, which is all over the place there.
That's right. It always comes in strongly for the Libs.
Further down the coast, Flynn. Let's have a look at Flynn. And all right, the primary vote now at nearly 70% counted. Ken O'Dowd is in front on that primary vote. Have a look after preferences, though.
He's still there.
That's not looking good either.
And that one, LNP as well. Bruce, that one's gone?
I've given it to the LNP. Yep.
All right, and then let's have a look at Longman.
Oh, he's pushed up.
All right, 76% counted. Wyatt Roy, 20-year-old Liberal candidate.
Wow.
He's on track to win it. And Wyatt Roy joins us now from the seat. He's there talking to Selena Edmonds.
David, thank you. Yes, I am here with Wyatt Roy. Wyatt, congratulations. You seem to have pulled off what many people said you could never do as a 20-year-old candidate.
Well, let's not call it just yet. I've only sort of walked into a storm at the moment. I'd like to have a look at the results before we make any decision either way, and I think this still will be a long night, and I think it will still come down to the wire. But I do want to say why I am here, how proud I am of the local grassroots campaign that we've run, and how proud I am of the people behind me. I was never the likeliest candidate, but the people behind me took me into their hearts, and that they helped us fight a very good local grassroots campaign here.
John Sullivan, the ALP local member, had a bad end to his campaign with that comment in that radio forum that he had to apologise for. The Prime Minister had to defend him. How much do you think that helped you?
Well, I was at that forum, and just before John made those comments, I made the statement that I take the approach to politics that I have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and that I think this role, or potentially this role, is about listening first and then advocating for all people in the community, regardless of where they're from. And that's the approach that I've taken to this campaign. And if I am lucky enough to be elected tonight, that is the approach that I would like to take to being potentially the federal member for Longman.
You'll be the youngest person to enter the House of Representatives, representing a federal electorate in that House. It's quite an achievement. At any point during the campaign, was there a moment that you thought that you'd won, or that it wasn't going the way you wanted it to go?
Well, I think a campaign, amazingly, is a lot like life or business. You have really good days and you have really bad days, and accepting that sometimes not everything is in your control, but all you can do is focus on what you do, the approach that you take. And I've always tried to take that approach of being honest, open, accountable and very available. And if I am elected tonight, that is the approach that I'd like to take in the federal parliament.
Well, it looks like you have been elected. Congratulations, and it's certainly been a big campaign for you. We met you 6 weeks ago. Well done, and you've got a party to go to here.
Thanks for that.
Okay. David, back to you in the studio. Wyatt Roy, it seems the new member for Longman.
Selena, thank you. Wyatt Roy being cautious still. Ashley Gillen is in the... No, sorry, Ash, we'll come back to you. I'm just told we'll have to go to Bennelong because John Alexander is arriving to declare victory tonight, where he's knocked off Labor's Maxine McKew. So let's have a look at that if we can. John Alexander there being mobbed by supporters, and the camera struggling to get a shot of him as well by the looks of it. But he's had what many would have thought would have been an unlikely win, but during the course of the campaign he's worked very hard, door knocking more than 9,000 homes and wearing out a pair of tennis shoes in the process to claim this, with a healthy swing to him. At the moment it looks like a swing of almost 5%, enough to give him that seat that Maxine McKew of course won famously from John Howard, ousting a sitting Prime Minister from his own seat at the last election. But now, as we heard just a short while ago, Maxine McKew conceded defeat. And now it's John Alexander who enjoys his moment of victory to become the federal member for Bennelong. One of 3 seats that we know the Liberals have gained in New South Wales, a few others still in play, but this one is now comfortably in the Liberal basket. We might go back to Brisbane while we're waiting for him to make some comments and have a look at a couple of other seats. The seat of Bonner we'll have a look at. All right, now Bonner, here it is. We're just having a look at some of the seats that are still too close to call. Kerry Rose trailing on that primary vote to Ross Vasta, the former Liberal member for the seat, after preferences. Let's see how he's going with 72% of the vote counted. He is in front. So that one again looks like an LNP gain. And from these seats that have been too close to call an hour ago, more and more of them are falling to the LNP in Queensland. And finally, Ford, while we're there. Let's have a look at Ford.
Oh, Bruce,
All right, so the primary vote now. This one's looking closer. Let's have a look after preferences at how this one is playing out. And again, it's trending to the coalition, the projection, LNP. Tony Burke, are you conceding that all of these are gone? I mean, we've gone through Dawson, Herbert, Longman, well, maybe Longman, but Bonner, Ford, Flynn.
I've got figures on Ford which have us closer than that, but still behind.
Right.
Ford's the one within that Queensland list that I still don't view as gone.
Longman gone, or is Longman still?
Oh, look, I find it very hard to see how we can get in front in Flynn, Dixon, Bonner, Longman, Herbert, Leichhardt, Brisbane or Dawson.
David?
Bruce Hawker, yep.
We should have a look at Moreton too, because even though we're ahead there, it's a bit tighter than it was before.
And when you...
There it is. So, yeah, Mal Cole, former advisor to Alexander Downer, and have a look after preferences. Yeah, that's going to be close, too close to call.
Now, David, have a look at the 3 seats in Western...
This one's saying a Labor win, but Bruce Hawker,
I think you'd still need to put it in the doubtful column just for the time being.
David, have a look at the 3 seats in Western Australia. At the moment, these are the 3 crucial seats which could decide whether or not we have a hung parliament, and the Libs are in front in all 3.
All right, well, let's go to them.
Brand, Hasluck and Swan.
We'll get to those in a minute, Graham, but we're going to go to John Alexander again in Bennelong, who's talking right now.
To Parramatta railway line, that was seen as such a transparent and insincere gesture with no planning advice, contrary to state Labor.
That really backfired on them, you think?
It really did. It was crass. It was a hollow promise from a desperate person trying to buy 5 marginal seats.
And yet, Mr Alexander, you have been someone who has supported better transport for this area.
Absolutely.
And you had it on your website that you liked the idea of the rail link.
Absolutely, absolutely, and consistent with Barry O'Farrell's plans to first do the Northwest Link, then the Southwest Link, and then finally Epping to Parramatta. But also contingent on having the money to be able to pay for it, which is something that so often the Labor government overlooks, that little nicety of having the money to be able to pay for something.
So how do you feel? Are you the new Liberal, the coalition giant slayer?
No, look, I don't think it's like that at all. I think this has been a very, very hard-fought campaign. My admiration goes to Maxine. It was a very fair campaign. As I often heard, Maxine is a very nice person, and she has worked very hard. But we've worked hard too, and this team that's here tonight are the ones that really deserve the credit for the win.
I guess there's one question a lot of people would want to know. You've had a fantastic career in tennis. You're one of Australia's greatest Davis Cup players. Why on earth would you want to go into politics?
The first time I sat in the back of a car with Tony Abbott, he said, "Why did you do this?" And I told...
Tony Abbott asked, why did you do this?
Yes, he said... it's one thing for a journalist to go into politics, maybe that's a step up, but for you, people did admire you. And I said, look, I met with Brendan Nelson, and we talked about preventative medicine, and we talked about the cost there is to health because of lifestyle illness, and how we've lost so many facilities. And his message to me was that I could do so much more within government than bashing my head against a brick wall trying to build sports clubs.
So is that the end of your tennis commentating now, or will you try to do both?
Look, I think for the moment I concentrate on this job. I won't do anything that will detract from my efforts to represent the people of Bennelong. I'm 100% committed.
And I don't want to rain on your parade.
Well, John Alexander there, the new Liberal member for Bennelong. Much will rest on what happens now in Western Australia, it seems. Well, let's have a look at the seat of Hasluck, first of all, where Sharon Jackson is in some trouble there for Labor. After preferences, Ken Wyatt looks like he's just in front, but this is going to be too close to call. Hasluck, does anyone have any...
I've been speaking over there, David. They think that Hasluck is line ball. And it's too early to call.
And exactly the same from our side.
And they say the other seat for us to keep an eye on is Canning. Just a very quick background on that. The candidate there for us is Alana McKew, and she was acknowledged, I think your people acknowledged that she was an outstandingly successful minister in the previous state Labor government, and she delivered a hell of a lot for an electorate which is composed within Canning. So while she had a bigger margin, she got about 4.5%, the expectation was that would be the one we're perhaps most likely to pick up. And they think she's going reasonably well. There's still a lot of good booze to come in, apparently.
We'll have a look at Canning then in a moment. Let's go first to Mike Willesee, who's in the seat of Hasluck. Mike Willesee, it's looking very close there at the moment, but Mike, what's your feeling on the ground?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, David. It is very close, there's no doubt about that, and it's very likely to be quite a long night here, I suspect. I've just spoken with Ken Wyatt, the Liberal candidate, who it would appear is marginally ahead. Numbers I've got after about 13% counted, 51.1 to 48.9 against Sharon Jackson, the sitting ALP member. So really too early to call, not much in it. There's a quiet sense of optimism. Ken, a bit like a cat on a hot tin roof at the moment. Yeah, indeed. It'll be one to watch, Mike. Thank you. Let's have a look at the other seats then while we're there in Western Australia. Swan, first of all. Let's see Swan. This one, a much tougher one for Labor to hold on to. Steve Irons, a sitting member, a redistribution made it notionally Labor, but he'll hold on to this. Have a look after preferences. Well, it's pretty close, though.
That was nationally a Labor seat.
It was.
And
0.5%.
Yeah.
0.3, yeah.
All right, so that's it. We've still only got 13%, 14% counted there, so we'll keep an eye on that.
Low.
And then Canning, as Bob Hawke was talking about there, where Alana McKew, the former state minister, is running for Labor to knock off Don Randall, the sitting Liberal member. And this is going to be close as well. 18% counted. Don Randall's in front there, but we'll keep an eye on that as well, because
Don Randall is a very good local campaigner.
Yeah. All right, well, we'll keep an eye on that one as well in the West, because it does look like now that we're an hour and a half since the close of polls there in Western Australia, things are tight in the West too.
It's a large swing there, 7% against Labor.
I was going to say, David, it looks pretty good for Labor for Brand. That was the only other seat that people were talking about.
Yeah.
I think Gary Gray is pretty comfortably
he shouldn't lose
home
that.
there.
And what about O'Connor, if I may
Can we have a
ask?
look at O'Connor?
Let's go back to O'Connor.
Let's check O'Connor.
And
while
our-
we're in the
our
West,
preferences
let's see
are
how
going
Wilson
to the
Tucky's going.
West of Wilson
Tony
Tucky.
Burke, you were checking on where the Labor preferences are going?
Yeah, they're going to Wilson Tucky very, very late. They go to the Nats first.
Okay.
Looking good.
So, well, this will be interesting then. Let's have a look after preferences and see what that means.
I've got it wrong.
That doesn't
It's
look
8% of the vote anyway.
That doesn't
Yeah, okay.
That doesn't
All right.
David, there's an interesting thing about the WA
Graham
Nats.
David, one of the seats that we thought had gone the wrong way is starting to move back again, and it could change the figures later in the night, and that's Corangamite, which has become very, very close again.
Well, let's have a look at that. Corangamite in Victoria, a seat that... well, the coalition's now in front on that primary vote. You're right. Sarah Henderson.
Still behind two-party.
Have a look after preferences, though. The Greens will help. Yeah. So it's coming back, though.
I'd still rather be us.
Yeah, Graham, are you saying that one is...
80% crowded.
I'm saying it is moving, and on the figures I've got, it's 50.02 to the ALP. That'll be a sleepless night.
David, just on another seat, Denison, our people say that that's looking very much like it's going to be Labor.
All right, this is the one where the Independent... Let's check that out, Denison. The Independent was doing pretty well there, Andrew Wilkie. But, yeah, the vote now, 74% counted. Have a look after preferences.
No, that can't be right.
No, there's something wrong there, I think, too.
It's a problem with the...
There's something wrong with that.
David, the catch here
is the preference doesn't include the Independent.
Is who comes last.
Yeah.
And at the moment on what
Let's
you
go
have
back
on
to the
screen,
primary vote for that one if
your
we can
Liberal
on
candidate
Denison.
doesn't get preferences because your Liberal candidate's coming last. And those preferences get
Yeah.
distributed out. Whether enough get distributed...
And we preference Wilkie, and then the Green, and then Jackson.
Yeah. So,
and there's an extent to which some Liberal voters, no matter how much Eric asks them, will not preference a Green
Yeah.
or Andrew Wilkie ahead of us, and so.
But the
extent
bulk
to
of
which
these,
they
you would
carry,
think, will go to Andrew Wilkie. The bulk of those Liberal votes, you'd think, would go to Andrew Wilkie.
Yeah, but you catch
because they're not
here-
going to go to Labor. You wouldn't think
but
over.
David, so your catch here
Who goes out first?
is your order at which people go out and how strongly the preferences carry.
Yep.
Also, in the state election, Andrew Wilkie got a substantial proportion of the Green preferences, and so I think he may well repeat that. If he does, I think the seat will be his. So very close.
Very hard to work that out.
All right. Well, one of the seats that the LNP's certainly been pulling in front in Queensland is the seat of Dawson.
Gary Humphries
And Laura Jays is there now. Laura, what's it looking like there?
Thank you all.
Well, George Christensen is the LNP candidate. He's not quite ready to declare, are you, George? But it is looking pretty good for you. Would you agree?
Look, it's looking very good. On two-party preferred figures, it looks like we're up about 52.2% of the two-party preferred. It's going to be very difficult for Labor to retain the seat of Dawson on that basis. So while I won't declare, I'm going to say it does look likely that I've won the seat for the Liberal National Party. So hopefully...
Well, there's been a few people driving past and tooting their horns, so it looks like pretty good. Yeah, exactly. Now, what are the issues that you've heard at polling booths today? What are people, voters in Dawson, upset with Labor about? Is it the mining tax?
Yeah, it certainly is the mining tax, one of the strong issues that did come through. People saying, look, we voted for Labor last time because of work choices. We're going to vote for you this time because of the Labor's mining tax. So it's a clear message, I think. You know, Flynn's gone, Dawson's probably gone, Capricornia has become a marginal Labor seat. You know, 3 mining seats that they needed to really hold on to, and 2 of them are gone.
What about the Rudd and the Bligh factor in Dawson? And we are up in Mackay. It's still a fair way from Brisbane and Kevin Rudd's electorate of Griffith, but are we feeling that sentiment up here as well?
I think so. I think that some people did feel that what Labor did to Kevin Rudd was a terrible thing, and that's been reflected as well. You know, some of the stuff that I got door knocking, people were saying that you wouldn't treat a dog like that, but they treated the Prime Minister like it. Certainly Anna Bligh is on the nose as well, right throughout this electorate. So all those factors had some part to play, but I do think the mining tax really turned some very strong Labor voters our way.
All right, George Christensen not quite ready to declare victory in the seat of Dawson, but it does look like one of those marginal seats here in North Queensland that has fallen to the coalition. David.
Laura, thank you. Let's go to Ashley Gillen at the Julia Gillard camp tonight in Melbourne. Ash, things are looking tight. It's looking like hung parliament territory. What's the mood there?
Yeah, look, there are quite a few grim faces here tonight. There are probably 300 to 400 Labor supporters gathered here at the Melbourne Convention Centre. The one moment of euphoria was when Julia Gillard's own seat flashed onto the screen, and we saw that the Prime Minister has recorded a huge swing towards her. No such scenes, though, when Kevin Rudd came on the screen to deliver his victory speech. The room fell completely deadly silent, but no clapping when Mr Rudd declared victory. Fascinating comments as well coming from Maxine McKew, who we now know has lost Bennelong. Of course, Maxine McKew won this in a splendid fashion in 2007, but tonight, no holds bars. Maxine McKew having a huge whack at the way Labor has run this campaign, saying that this campaign has left a lot of questions for Labor, saying that the running of the national campaign left a lot to be desired. She pointed out that with 2 months, removing a leader 2 months before an election, she said, of course, that's going to feed into the result. So she's acknowledging the Rudd factor in her defeat in Bennelong, and also saying that she believes that it was a mistake to abandon the emissions trading scheme. So Maxine McKew on her way out tonight, but not going quietly. If Labor loses tonight, I think there'll be the party will need a lot of therapy going forward into the next 3 years.
Yeah, look, it's an interesting point, Ash, and it'll be interesting to see, particularly some of those Queensland MPs who fall tonight as well for Labor, what their thoughts are on you know, the execution of Kevin Rudd. But they're in Victoria. What do you think the Gillard camp are feeling about how the vote's tracking in Victoria generally?
Well, it does seem like Labor is doing much better here, obviously, as expected, than in Queensland and New South Wales. Obviously, the seats of McKew looking very good for Labor. Also, Latrobe, the seat of Melbourne, of course, that was the big one that voters here were looking very encouraged by early on in the night, but now that, of course, looking like it's gone to the Greens. So some mixed results for Labor here, but a lot more positive than in Queensland and New South Wales.
All right, Ashley, thank you. We might look at some of those Victorian seats then. McKew and Latrobe. McKew, first of all. Let's see how Labor's going there. The one that they're certain to win, it seems. And, yeah, they are ahead on the primary vote comfortably, and after preferences, McKew is going to the Labor Party. Rob Mitchell becoming the new member there. And Latrobe, let's see how that looks in the Dandenongs. Latrobe, the primary vote is pretty tight there for Jason Woody's in front, but look at the Greens vote there at 8,000. That's pushing Labor in front after preferences. It's probably going to be still, well, it's saying Labor. Is that definitely Tony Burke in the Labor column, Latrobe, along with McKew?
Oh, it's hard to see. I think it's hard to see us losing from there.
And the other two, though, in Melbourne that are more, well, closer, Dunkley and then Aston. Have a look at Dunkley. We've got two Labor gains there so far, but Dunkley in Victoria, Bruce Bilson's, well, he's still in front on the primary vote. Have a look after preferences. This one's going to be close. Yeah, and it is.
Oh, it's getting tight, isn't it?
But earlier in the evening it was losing, so
it's
swaying. It's swaying exactly.
We see one we'll keep an eye on, and then Aston finally as well. Let's have a look at Aston. We've now got 74% of the vote counted there, and looking better for the Liberals, it would seem.
Oh no,
it's picked up a bit for us.
Yeah, it has. And what about Corangamite?
Corangamite, can we see?
And Corangamite as well, which I think we had previously.
She's moved further.
Sarah Henderson falling a bit short in after preferences. Let's have a look now. Yeah, she is.
Oh, that's still the same.
But
yeah, they're the same thing as we had earlier.
Yeah.
Now let's go to Kieran Gilbert. He is at the Tony Abbott camp in Sydney tonight. Kieran, as you watch some of these figures coming in, what are your thoughts? How do you think it's going from where you sit?
Well, David, since we last spoke, I can tell you that this room has become a lot busier. It has got the Liberal Party faithful excited to see the party, the coalition, resurgent in this election. Now, they might fall short, but the mood here is very much one, a buoyant one. They're very pleased with the way they're going. And as we've said, as we heard Bruce say and other panellists, the hung parliament looks like a very, very real possibility. But for this crowd, they're delighted at what they've seen thus far, one after another seats falling to the blue column. And the one in particular, I've got to tell you, where this crowd basically raised the roof at the Four Seasons Hotel was when Bennelong was decided. John Alexander, the hero, for winning back the symbolic seat of Bennelong, and we overheard one of the older members of the Liberal Party saying, whatever else happens tonight, at least we've won back Bennelong.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they're thrilled about getting that seat back. There's a few seats still in play in New South Wales, though. In Queensland, the LNP, as the night goes on, seems to be locking in some of those ones that have been in the balance, like Flynn, Bonner, Longman, Herbert, Dawson. But in Western Sydney, Lindsay, still a fight underway there. And, Kieran, we heard David Bradbury saying not long ago that he'll be going to bed tonight unsure of his future.
And if Bradbury wins that seat, I've got to say it's a remarkable effort against the swing that we've seen right around the outer ring of Sydney. If he holds the tide in what was seen as the seat that was going to certainly go to the Liberals, that would be a remarkable effort. And I've got to say, he's certainly put in the yards, David Bradbury. Ran in 01, ran in 04, lost on those two occasions. If he gets across the line this time, it would be quite an achievement. But as we say, still a long way to go in this count, and things remaining very, very tight. Particularly fascinating to watch the numbers as they're coming in on the other side of the country. It doesn't look like Alana McTiernan's going to pull off that win in Canning, and that could make things very much on the knife edge, as we've been saying right along.
Absolutely, Kieran Gilbert, thank you, and we'll come back to you. We might just check in on how those two seats in South Australia are going, Boothby and Sturt. Boothby, first of all, Andrew Southcott's seat. Let's have a look at the result there. OK, we're now looking at Andrew Southcott ahead on the primary vote there by 5,000, but behind on preferences just. Bruce Hawker, what do you think about that result? Still far too close?
It's very close there, David. No one's prepared to say anything other than that right now.
All right.
We're waiting to try to get some further information.
And Sturt, we'll check that out as well. Chris Pine's seat. And now we have Chris Pine. Well, yeah, he'll be all right there by the looks of that. Let's have a look after preferences. Yep, and he should be...
Well done, Christopher.
Yes, he's picked up the seat and he's picked up a swing.
Yep.
And we'll cross to Chris Pine, I'm told, in a couple of minutes, and we'll hear what he thinks about
I think Tony Burke spoke too soon in relation to Sturt.
I said we should press the pause button then. I still hold to that.
Spoke too
but
soon.
it looks like Labor can only possibly get a one-seat gain out of South Australia at this stage. They're certainly not going to get two seats. They may not even get that one in Boothby. Let's have a look at Solomon in Northern Territory. Solomon looks like going to the coalition, certainly did earlier in the evening. It's now looking stronger and stronger for Natasha Griggs. Have a look after preferences.
Yep.
Well, this is going to be...
that will most likely get worse for us with the extra votes that come in.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's another... That's... If we add up where we're at,
okay,
you're down one in Northern Territory.
If we go back to the 70 that I referred to before, 76 gives you majority government.
Yep.
If you look at where are we in front at the moment of the undecideds that remained, we're in front in Greenway and in front in Lindsay. That gets us to 72. Macquarie, half an hour ago we were in front. Now in the latest figures I've got, we're just behind. No one's able to call Boothby, and we don't know enough about what's happening in the west yet.
All right.
So if everything that's line ball at the moment, where we're not in front, if the Liberals get all of that, they'd have 73 seats, we'd have 72 if there were 5 independents.
Bruce Hawker?
Well, David, we were hearing, this doesn't gel with what I'm seeing on the screen, but we're hearing that we're looking very good in Stirling, but it doesn't actually fit with what I'm seeing on my screen, but that's what scrutiny is apparently saying on the ground in Perth. So it's probably worthwhile just having a quick look at Stirling.
Before you get there,
yeah, let's have a look at it then. Here it is. Stirling's showing 41% of the vote counted there. Michael Keenan looks to me to be comfortably in front on the primary vote there, and after preferences, he's well and truly in front. You're hearing otherwise, though, Bruce?
A report to that effect. I'll try to get some more information on that.
Yeah.
Just on Lindsay. We were just talking about it before. It is going to be one of the biggest swings in the country. It's an extraordinary result by Fiona Scott. And as of 10 minutes ago, with Kings Langley and Kellyville still to come, the Labor Party is in front by 9 votes. Two-party preferred, our scrutiny is saying 9 votes.
9 votes. And you've still got favourable coalition booths to come in.
You've still got Kings Langley and Kellyville, that sort of housing country.
Oh, well, we win.
Hey?
We win, 9 votes.
And let's have a look at Macquarie then, was the other one. Macquarie, Tony was saying, is starting to look a little worse for Labor. In the Blue Mountains there, 76% counted, and yeah, Louise Marcus seems to be strengthening. Have a look after preferences.
Oh, it's close.
Very close, very close.
I think we could nearly tick that.
All right, but if we do a count then, Tony, back on the numbers that you were looking at, 70 seats for Labor, definite.
Yep, and in doubt are still Greenway, Macquarie, Lindsay.
Yep.
I've got Ford in doubt, Boothby, Hasluck, Swan and Canning.
Ford in doubt. What about Dunkley and Aston? No chance.
Dunkley and Aston, I can't believe we've ended up talking about Dunkley and Aston. To think that we get there as well, I just think it's going to be really hard. Because the other thing is, I suspect our postal vote campaign won't have been as big in that seat as it will have been in McKew and La Trobe. I'd be surprised if it has been.
Or you had the benefit of incumbency, and we do know that the postal vote applications were put into Australia Post on Friday before the election was called, and so you guys hit the mailboxes 1 or 2 days before we did, and you will clearly get an advantage out of that.
You get some advantage out of that. There's a big disadvantage for us in the postal votes this time, a really big disadvantage, and that was the postal votes hit the letterboxes at the worst point of the campaign for us. We had the second week, which, with the leaks and everything that happened then, it was the
worst time.
A shocking week for us. Right at the end of that, postal votes arrive. So, you know, I don't know. You're seeing more advantages for Labor in the postal vote system this time around than I am.
But back on the seat count then, it would seem that you have to win, Labor has to win, seats like Greenway, Lindsay,
Macquarie
you'd have to win.
You've got to win Macquarie, I think.
You think you'll win Macquarie?
I reckon Macquarie will determine who has a majority of one between the major parties, the hung parliament. If we hold Macquarie, I think it'll be 73-72 to Labor. And I would think the most worried man in Australia tonight might be Harry Jenkins, the Speaker.
So it is going to be a hung parliament, is that?
That's what looks to me the most likely.
The numbers really stacked up.
Yeah, because in Western Australia, it's what we're looking at a possible loss there of Hasluck.
Swan and Hasluck.
And Swan's the national seat. So, so we could lose to there. Canning is still in play, but you know we're not
looking good for the coalition. It's about
likely,
a 2% swing, I've been told, and you need 4 to win it.
So that's my reading on what I've listened to, watched, and talking to our people. That Macquarie, and it is very important if those calculations are right, and Macquarie comes to us and we were 73-72. Then, I mean, whoever's got the more seats has got a better negotiating position with the independents.
Clearly.
So I think Macquarie is the absolutely critical seat.
But David, can I just say, this is a mammoth result, win, lose or draw for Tony Abbott and the coalition. This is just a breathtaking recovery for the coalition from where we were 8-9 months ago.
Well, I think we said earlier, and I'm quite happy to repeat it, I think the Tony Abbott has just performed just infinitely better than anyone expected, perhaps including himself.
Perhaps. Let's have a look then at the...
We haven't looked at Warringah.
No, we haven't. Let's have a look. As you can see here, seats that have changed colours. Leichhardt going to the coalition. Dawson, it seems, going to the coalition, and Herbert as well. If we go further into closer to Brisbane.
You agree with what I just said?
So Longman, where it looks like Wyatt Roy is going to pick up that seat, and Ford as well, going to the coalition, and then in Brisbane itself. So the seats changing colour here, Bonner and Brisbane, but Labor holding on, it seems, in Petrie at this stage. In Sydney, when we come down there, so Bennelong going to the coalition, Lindsay still too close to call. Greenway, the coalition look like they've got Greenway, or is that one still?
We're in front in Lindsay and Greenway.
You're still in front in Greenway.
I would not be calling Greenway for us.
Lindsay and Greenway
are in the Labor camp.
Yep.
Macquarie is the one that's an issue.
Yeah.
And
Can we have another look at Macquarie?
yeah, let's have a look at Macquarie and MacArthur.
Oh, MacArthur. Forget MacArthur.
Yeah.
Macquarie is too close to call, and MacArthur goes to the Libs.
Yeah.
And then in the rest of New South Wales, Ed Monero stays in Labor hands. There's really no change, it would seem, because and even the Central Coast seats of Robertson and Dobell look like staying in
and this
Labor
is where,
hands.
when you talked before about what the swing across New South Wales is, there's there actually isn't a New South Wales swing.
No.
What's actually happening is there's a Sydney swing
Patchy results.
and a different result outside of Sydney.
Yeah, that's right.
If you look in...
And can I just speak to that?
Yeah.
That there
Bob
is, I think there
Baldwin
is...
got a good swing.
Yeah. That's true. But I just say on the Sydney swing, where we're seeing that Sydney swing, it's in those Western Sydney, those outer suburb seats. Yes.
These ones.
Yes. And can we just reflect? You know, Kevin Rudd was elected with a mandate to invest in infrastructure in our major cities. And we didn't see that happen in the first 3 years under Kevin Rudd. Julia came in, she made that commitment to invest in infrastructure, and I think that was welcomed by the people of Sydney, but understandably, there's a lot of cynicism about it, because for 3 years we didn't have a decision by Kevin Rudd to make that investment, and those are the suburbs that will most acutely feel that. But I do think that Tony's point's exactly right. There isn't a uniform New South Wales swing going on, and you're seeing strong results in Eden, Monaro and on the Central Coast, much stronger than anyone projected.
I actually disagree with it in some senses, though. In some of those safer seats, when we look at Riverina, there's been a huge swing conservatively to a new candidate down there. It was a retiring member's seat. Looking at Cowper, there's been a big swing to Luke Hartsuker up there in what is nationally a very, very tight seat. And looking at Calare, with the redistribution, that took in the areas of Bathurst and Lithgow, very, very Labor-held areas. And John Cobb's had a swing, I think, for about 8% to him. So I don't necessarily agree that the swing's sort of only been in the city.
Yeah. If we go further to the south, have a look at what's changed in Victoria. We've got McKew turning red for the Labor Party there, and then Latrobe as well, falling to Labor as well there. And in Melbourne itself, the seat of Melbourne is turning green. But apart from that, we still have a couple of seats to watch there, but it doesn't look like the Labor Party will gain any more in Victoria. In Adelaide itself, those two seats we were talking about, Boothby still very close, but Chris Pine is going to hold on there in Sturt. In Tasmania, let's check that out. At the moment, it looks like Labor will hold everything, but Denison's the key here, isn't it, in Hobart, depending on the preference flow as to whether Andrew Wilkie gets up as an independent. There's also in the Northern Territory...
What's the latest on Solomon?
Well, Solomon did look... Let's bring up the figures for Solomon. Solomon looked like it was going to the coalition.
No, it was gone.
I think it's gone. It's gone.
Well, it was before, anyway.
Yeah. So these are the latest figures. Yeah, Damien Hale trailing, and it does look like Natasha Griggs. Have a look after preferences, as though it's still pretty close.
Yeah, but you've got to remember there'll be a significant number of defence votes coming in late.
Yeah.
So
there'll be defence
votes coming in late.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's one we'll keep an eye on, because if Labor holds onto that, that's going to help. But at the moment, it looks like a hung parliament scenario. The independents being Bob Catter, Tony Windsor, Rob Oakeshott, Adam Bant, the new Greens member for Melbourne. We don't know what's going to happen in Denison.
Denison, possibly.
And what's going to happen in the West. Now, let's check out any further results there. We'll go Hasluck, then Swan. Hasluck, first of all.
I think we lost Hasluck.
All right, so we've now got 62% counted. Sharon Jackson trailing slightly on that primary vote. Still very close.
Oh, very close.
Very close. This one we may not know tonight, but that's very close. Swan looks like it's gone. A sitting Liberal MP. It had been redistributed into a notionally Labor seat, but Steve Irons is in front there on the primary vote, and after preferences.
Very strong local. Very strong.
Yeah. Yeah. He's picked up a 4% swing at this stage, and we'll hold on to that. We'll have a look at
Canning.
Sterling and then Canning. Sterling, first of all.
I've got us in fronting Canning.
Sterling got no chance.
No. Michael Keenan's done very well in Sterling, I'd suggest.
Yeah, he has. He's well in front.
Yeah.
And after preferences, Michael Keenan is picking up a swing to him. And finally, Canning. Where Labor has some hope of picking up a seat in the West. But at the moment, as you can see there, well, this is interesting. This is tightened up.
This would be Labor.
Lana McTiernan might pull off an interesting victory here. Have a look after preferences.
Now, David, you're there on 36%. Our scrutineers for Canning, we've got 50% of our results in, and we're on 50.45.
Yeah. Close.
Which means you won't know tonight.
Graham Morris, what do you think about that?
Looking at where those preferences were coming from, because in a few of them, Family First at the moment are sort of helping in Victoria, helping in Western Australia. And I was just having a look as to where that other came from, and if it's Family First, he might hang on. Incidentally, while we're there...
Family First is preference.
Yeah. While we're there, I was just looking in the sort of Abbott team, including Ken Wyatt, who could be the first Indigenous person in the House of Reps, Warren Ince, the crocodile hunter, John Alexander, the tennis great, Wyatt Roy, the youngest in Parliament. You know, the Tony Abbott team is going to have an interesting crowd in all of this.
You sure will. You'll have 2 bishops and an abbot.
Bishops and an abbot. But it's almost been, well, it's been well over 1,000 years since an abbot has been credited with a miracle. Tonight's a minor miracle.
I can see the headline writers jotting all of that down. What we might do before we go to the tally room and hear from the Greens leader Bob Brown about how they're tracking is have a look at the national vote as it stands at the moment. Let's bring up the nationwide vote and see what we've got. So nationally, Labor suffering a swing of 4%. The Liberals increasing their vote by 1%. The Greens, they'd be very happy with this, 11.5%, picking up a 4% swing to them nationally at the moment. How does that translate into seats? Let's have a look.
There's a 5% increase and a 7%.
They're coming. Okay.
8% increase and a 4% decrease.
All right.
That doesn't. Those figures aren't adding up.
Okay, we don't have it. Well, what we might do is go and hear what Bob Brown has to say about the sort of swing that he's picking up. He spoke in the tally room a short time ago. Here he was.
Bigger complement of people than ever before. Let me give this commitment. We will use this vote from the Australian people responsibly. We will use it to give this nation leadership. We will use it to innovate. We will use it to get a much better dividend for education. We will use it to get a much better public health system. We will use it, and I note Warren H. Williams' fantastic vote of 16% in the Northern Territory, to get a much better deal for Indigenous Australians, to save the forests, and to get a carbon price, which is business wants and which will give business the future assuredness that it needs in an age of climate change. We will use it to look after farmlands in Australia. The National Party got 4% of the vote tonight. We got 12% of the vote. So it's a very, very wonderful night. I might add, on a vote-for-vote basis, the Greens on 12% would be having 17 seats in the lower house. And it's time we move to proportional representation so that everybody's vote is equal in this country. One person, one vote, one value. I thank the people of Australia. I congratulate both the coalition team with Mr Abbott and the Labor team with Prime Minister Gillard. I congratulate all candidates and all parties who took part. I also want to, while she's taken Gary Humphries below a quota, Lynn Hatfield-Dodds is certainly now a very outside chance in the Senate, but she's just won the biggest state or provincial Greens vote anywhere in the world, topping the Belgian Flemish Greens for the biggest vote in anywhere in the world. A great result for Lynn Hatfield-Dodds, and we'll take that seat in the ACT next time round.
What do you think about the possibility of a hung parliament? Is that encouraging for the Greens?
Well, I think that good government's what's encouraging, and the Australian people may have the Greens involved in that situation, and we'll deliver a good result out of it. Our job is to keep governments accountable as well as to get a better dividend. We did that in the last period of government, we'll do it in the next one.
Do you think it's more the balance of power in both houses?
It's clear the Greens will have the balance of power in the Senate. We'll use that responsibly and to make whoever's government more accountable. Now, what happens in the House of Representatives is just in the hands of the voters and those late votes coming in. The bushwalkers vote, by the way, always comes in well for the Greens, those postal votes coming from overseas and people are absentee. So factor that in, but we'll wait and see. We have a great experience in the balance of power. The Greens more than any other party, so we'll put that to good use, and I assure the people of Australia every vote that's gone to the Greens will be valued, and as Adam Bant said tonight, we'll be looking to the whole of electorate of Australia when we make decisions, both about the issues as they come up, but about the makeup of the next government if that becomes necessary.
What does this mean to climate change and mining tax?
The swing to the Greens is because we held firm on the mining tax to help fund education, because we want to put a carbon levy not onto the taxpayers as the big parties would, but onto the polluters. We want to, and let me not forget this one, it was a huge issue in the electorate, we want to end the discrimination against same-sex couples in marriage, and so that everybody who loves each other, as Adam said, may be able to marry if they wish to without discrimination in this wonderful country of ours. We'll help drag both the big parties, one in government, one in opposition, into the 21st century for Australia.
All right, the Greens leader Bob Brown speaking there in the tally room, and we're going to cross from him to a surprised Christopher Pyne. Chris, you're on the big screen here, joining us from Sturt, where congratulations, you've held on to that seat. What's your take on where things are at tonight for you and for the Liberal Party?
Well, David, the Electoral Commission's giving me about a 3% swing to us. Of course, there's been a swing against us across the state, so I'm very, very pleased to have got a swing to us in Sturt. It'll probably be about 3.5% in the end, which means I've got a 4.4% margin. Labor threw everything at this seat, and Boothby next door. They really did believe they had a very good chance of winning it, but the electors of Sturt have I'm very pleased and privileged they've re-elected me for the 7th time, and I'll be going back to Canberra as the member for Sturt, and very happy to be doing so on their behalf.
As will your supporters
happy
there.
Crowd here.
How do you think Boothby's going to go?
Yeah, they're very happy. I think we'll win Boothby. If we're ahead on election night, as we are in Boothby, with pre-polls and postals to count, we'll win those, I think, overwhelmingly against the Labor Party, which means the very small margin that he's enjoying tonight will be boosted up. You might remember at the last election I won by 72 votes, and I still went on to win the seat by 1,700. So I'm quite sure that Andrew will win tonight, and he'll be going back to Canberra with me, and I'm very happy about that.
What's your feeling about the national result, Chris Pyne? Do you think we're looking at a hung parliament?
Look, nationally it very much hangs in the balance. I think the point to make is that in December last year we were looking at losing 22 seats. Tonight, 9 months later, thanks to Tony Abbott and thanks to an incredible effort by the whole team, we are possibly going to form government. I mean, it is an extraordinary turnaround. We still have a lot of seats hanging in the balance. Labor could win, we could win. It could be minority government on both sides, so it's too early to call, but to have gone from where we were in December to where we are tonight is the most amazing outcome, and people who support the coalition around Australia should be very proud with the team and with Tony Abbott in particular.
And do you look forward to playing a bigger role in that team, Chris Pyne? Do you think you could perhaps be rewarded with a more senior post?
Well, look, David, I think it's a very senior post to be Manager of Opposition Business, and it's a very senior post to be the Shadow Minister for Education. Julia Gillard, before she knifed Kevin Rudd, of course, was the Minister for Education. So it's not in any way a lesser role. So I'm happy to serve in whatever capacity Tony Abbott wants me to serve.
All right, Chris Pyne, well done in Sturt. Thank you for joining us tonight.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
Bob Hawke.
I wonder if it's possible to go back to Canning, because I've just looked at who the other candidates are. And quite clearly, two of the candidates their preferences would go against Labor, and the Greens would obviously go away. It would give us a better idea of.
All right. Well, so let's just have a look at this primary vote. the candidate's obviously Don Randall, the sitting member, and he's neck and neck with Alana McTiernan.
This Van Bugle is Christian Democratic Party, so they'll just go to the Libs.
Yep.
And
then you've got
that, and you would. So it's very close. The Greens will obviously go about 80%. So, and all of Van Bugle's votes will go
to the Libs.
Will go there. So you can say he's on 19,000.
Yeah.
Well, with the 80%.
It's usually about 80% from Greens and from the Christian Democratic Party. They don't all flow, so I think you'll get the same leakage out of the Greens.
Well, that'll be enough to get her over the line.
Which is why it is so close, as you're saying.
See, I can't quite understand that. I think it should be Elena in front.
Yeah.
David, before we leave Western Australia, can we just quickly go back to O'Connor and just see what's happening out there?
Sure.
And what about Jorak? What happened? Were the Nationals running there or not? No?
Yeah, well, Fiona Nash, it would seem, obviously keen to see the Nat get up here, Tony Crook. With Labor's preferences going to him, he might just get there. Let's have a look after preferences. Wilson Tuckey. Yeah, this is hard because the distribution of preferences would be based on what happened at the last election. And, things are different. So I don't know. I would guess that's too close, but.
So I tell you how long Wilson's been around. He went in Parliament the same day as I did in 1980. Long time.
But it looks as though the Greens are preferencing the National Party as well, are they?
Not sure about the Greens. Certainly Labor is. Apparently the Nationals won the primary every booth in Kalgoorlie. So it's interesting.
Let's see if we have any further update on some of these seats. Macquarie in New South Wales, that's still too close to call. We'll go through a few of these that are in the balance this stage of the evening. Macquarie in the Blue Mountains, now with 81%, 82% counted, has Labor trailing Louise Marcus on that primary vote, and after preferences, it's going to be, still very close there.
What is it?
It's
50.5.
Wow. Well,
the computer's saying a projection for the Liberals. Graham Morris, have you got any more news there on Macquarie from your end?
No, it's the same as that. Simply saying that it is very, very close. We're not going to know that tonight.
The difficulty, David, for Labor here is going to be the postals, as Tony was saying before. They came out at a very bad time for us, and we shouldn't be assuming that there's going to be a really good flow of votes to us that way. But I can count 9 seats now that are too close to call.
But
I can being Macquarie, Greenway, Lindsay, Ford.
No. I'll just tell you what I've got. I've got Greenway, Lindsay, Moreton, Corangamite, Boothby. Oh, sorry, I've counted Moreton twice. Hasluck and Canning. So that's 7 actually that I've got. We're not going to know those tonight for sure.
Well, Hasluck and Canning we might see further results on.
We might.
Over the course of the hour, but we may not see we won't see a result in Macquarie tonight, you wouldn't think.
No.
Greenway, let's have a look at Greenway. And this one now with 72% counted, very, very close there. But Labor's, got its nose in front on that primary vote, so have a look now after preferences at how that stacks up. It's looking...
You'd rather be us.
Yeah, you'd rather be on the Labor side of that one.
The Fred Nile group of preferences are going to be important there.
And we might just check Lindsay as well, the other one that's looking close. Okay, so 83, 84% counted there, and look at how close Fiona Scott and David Bradbury are on the primary vote. In fact, David Bradbury just in front now. The preferences from the Greens will help. Have a look after the preference flow. Very, very close there.
So you'd think Labor would actually be in a better position than that, David?
Is the fact that the Greens aren't picking up, the Labor's not picking up those Greens preferences as much as you do in other areas?
It's a smaller vote.
That's right. They are splitting 50-50 in Lindsay, and the Christian Democrats are strongly going to the coalition.
Yeah. Why would the Green vote be splitting 50-50 in Lindsay? Bruce, do you have a theory?
No.
Unless
I doubt it, actually.
Unless they had an open ticket there, but at the moment, the scrutiny is at 50-50.
I think that
They did have an open.
They did.
they did have an open ticket, but even then you'd expect it to go 65.
That's the same. The candidate's the same one who ran in the Penrith by-election as well. So
Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
Oh, Bruce's Bob Hawke again.
All right, so we have Lindsay, Greenway and Macquarie in New South Wales that are too close to call. Kieran Gilbert is in Sydney with Tony Abbott tonight. Kieran, let's go to you first. These seats in New South Wales, there's a couple in Queensland and Victoria that are too close to call at the moment. A lot will depend on the West, but it does look like a hung parliament.
It does. All of that will be decided, obviously, over the next few hours, but I can tell you the crowd here isn't too worried about that just now. They are delighted with the result thus far. They are absolutely jubilant, I've got to say, here at the Four Seasons. The former Prime Minister John Howard arrived. He went straight upstairs, had a few comments to some cameras, but they've taken him to another room. I think that's probably good for his safety because he would have been mobbed here. They've been dancing and they've been up on the stage, and they've, as I said earlier, when the Bennelong result came through, they raised the roof. That was a very, very popular result because of the symbolism, the fact that they'd won back Bennelong. Now, as far as the count goes, it does look almost certain to be a hung parliament, and we had guessed that we might have to wait for the results from the West, and it seems that's exactly what's transpiring. Alana McTiernan, a chance of picking up Canning. It's still very tight, but tight in Lindsay. Greenway, it looks like Labor's going to hold that, but so many undecided seats at the moment. I could tell you Tony Abbott has not made any plans just yet to make his way here. He's watching the coverage tonight, and they'll make an assessment of just when he will be coming here to speak to the party faithful, to speak to our viewers. As soon as we get a heads up, David, I'll report it back to you.
All right, Kieran, thank you. And Ashley Gillen, with the Julia Gillard camp in Melbourne. It is close, but the Prime Minister, Ash, would be biting those fingernails tonight, and no doubt we'll have to make some comments whichever way it goes. Even if we're looking at a hung parliament, we will see her tonight.
We will see her a little later, no word yet on timing. Kieran's saying they're dancing over at the Liberal Party. Well, it isn't a party here. No dancing going on here at the Melbourne Convention Centre. I said to you earlier the mood here was pretty grim. Well, now I think it's gone into a bit of shell shock here. I've just done a bit of a lap of the room, spoken with a few senior Labor sources here, and they're just shaking their heads in disbelief, wondering how we got to this, how Labor got to this point. A couple of them that I've spoken to have said that they think that the belief that Labor would win throughout this campaign has damaged Labor, that that belief was held wrongly and has made some voters complacent. So already some of these senior Labor figures starting to analyse where everything went wrong. Quite a few eyebrows raised here about Maxine McKew's comments about how she said that the national campaign that Labor ran needed a lot to be desired, her comments about there not being enough discipline in this campaign. So already really here the mood is very grim, and we're just waiting to see what Julia Gillard might have to say a bit later in the night.
All right, Ashley Gillen, thank you for that live from the Julia Gillard camp at the Convention Centre in Melbourne. Things were looking brighter for Labor earlier in the evening, Tony Burke. It's, is a majority government still at all possible or not?
Oh, look, it's possible, but across a number of seats in the balance, every one of them would have to fall the right way. And, you know, very difficult.
I think that I can get Abbott sitting on 72 now, with Lindsay, Greenway, Macquarie, Moreton, Corangamite, and one of the Western seats undecided. And, you know, you split those three each, he gets to 75. Give him 4, he gets 76. So
this is for
I think
Tony,
it's just a long way to go.
He could still get...
I think he can still get 76.
But can Labor still get 76?
Yeah, either side can get 76, depending on how those 6 or 7 seats fall.
Well, John, I think I was answering a question about whether Labor could still get to 76.
Oh, I see. Okay. Both can still get 76.
Bob,
but most
what do you
likely
think?
Yeah, it's what Tony and John finally agreed. is right. Either could, but that is, I think, the least likely outcome. I still think it's a hung parliament, and I still come back to the proposition that I think it's going to turn on Macquarie. Canning is... I was just talking to the Assistant State Secretary over there, and as you know from the figures, it's very close, and he said there's some big booths in Armidale and their old state electorate to come in, so he's still got Canning as a possibility. And he said he wouldn't write Hasler off. He said it could get down to a couple of hundred votes. And now that's taking an optimistic view, admittedly, but I still think it's a possibility of Labor finishing in front 73-72, and as I say, Harry Jenkins having a worried night.
Yeah, it's definitely.
So, Bob, is this your 8 o'clock call at 20 past 10?
Well, unfortunately, Eric, 2010 ain't 2007.
Why don't we have a look at...
Look, I don't think, to be fair, I don't think I could let tonight finish. We've all been very generous, as we should be, to Tony Abbott and his campaigning. And I'm unqualified about that, but I don't want that to be read as in any way denigrating Julia Gillard. I think Julia Gillard ran a tremendous campaign. I'm not saying that just to boost her up. I genuinely think she did. I mean, she had the most god-awful thing dropped on a plate in that first week or so with the leaks.
Oh, the leadership, I thought you were talking about.
No. You know what you can do with leadership, Don. I told you before what you could have done. But you didn't listen. But I think Julie did a marvellous job. And against what a lot of the commentators have said, and a lot of the general public have tended to be denigratory of our political leadership in this campaign. I don't think that's justified. I think both Julia Gillard and Tony Abbott have run good campaigns, and I think the big advantage that Julia had, with respect, Eric, I think Tony didn't get a tremendously great support from his team, I don't think. I mean, it was very much... I know our campaign was overwhelmingly Julia, but I think she got a bit more support from Minister for Health, Treasurer and so on. I think Tony had more on his own plate than Julia did, but both of them did very well.
Can I just give another take on this? Yeah. I would say that if Julia Gillard doesn't win, she's been sacrificed. Her career's been sacrificed, because in my view, Rudd would have won if he'd gone double dissolution. I still think he would have won if he'd stayed as leader. Putting her in and making her run this campaign under all the constraints you've talked about, if she loses, she's been sacrificed. Her career has been sacrificed. And I think it was a very big call for those who made that call.
To burn through two leaders.
To burn through leaders for the sake of, the expectation was you'd do better with Julia than you would with Rudd. Well, I think the internal polling was the other way, and I'm convinced now that she's probably been sacrificed.
Well, it ain't over yet.
It's not over. Still a long way to go.
David, can we go to Bowman? I've just received a message suggesting we should have another look at the seat of Bowman.
OK, let's do that.
I don't know why, but...
in Queensland.
Let's see.
I've written that off.
Yeah, I'll give you another Friday.
Given that Bowman hasn't been one that we've been looking at all night...
This wasn't on the list for Labor tonight, but anyway.
I know why. I got that message because there's been a 10% swing to Andrew Lamming.
Yeah, but it doesn't change the seat count.
No, it does not change the result. It does not change the result.
When are you going to knock off, Eric?
We've been talking about Labor's leadership, and let's say something strange happened and the Labor Party decided to have a look at someone else. One of those people would be Anthony Albanese. And in the last half an hour, the Liberals have fallen behind the Greens in Grayndler, and if all of their votes went to the Greens, Anthony would be in trouble.
Well, let's check out the result there in Grayndler. Let's have a look. Grayndler, if we can.
Saying that
that's a huge swing.
10.5%. Arguing that if all the Liberal preferences go to
You're right, Eric and Betts. Grayndler, Anthony Albanese. Okay. So you're saying if the Libs...
It's one of those games where you then take away the number you first thought of and your first letter's D.
That's not going to happen.
Anyone would like to have a bet on this?
No.
Yeah, I think he's fine, Graham.
David, just to...
Bruce.
Just assuming that Labor has held Denison, and I think that's most likely the case, I think they're on 70. And if they hold Greenway, Lindsay, Moreton, maybe Corangamite, that's 74. You know, they can get right up into the high 70s here, which puts them in a very strong position when it comes to talking about a government in the event of a hung
into the mid
parliament.
70s, the
mid 70s,
not the high 70s. The one you mentioned there, Bruce, was Moreton. We might have a look at Moreton. The margin here, from memory, for Labor was 5 or 6%. The Brisbane seat. Now it's looking like Malcolm Cole. Well, he's certainly in front well on the primary vote. Have a look after preferences at how that shapes up. Yeah, he's still trailing a bit there, but
there's a big Green vote, you see, that's really delivering it for Labor.
Yeah.
So you assume that they, on the odds would take that. Greenway, if you have a look at that.
Let's have a look at Greenway in Western Sydney. This is the other one that's going to be probably too close to call tonight. 72% counted there, and as you can see, very close on that primary count. You've got a couple of, a Green and an independent here. Confusing us by his name, Alan Green, but have a look at after the preference flow here.
See, once again, Labor looks pretty good in Greenway.
Yeah.
So that's so that's 72.
Yeah. So okay, Greenway you're saying is in the Labor column, giving you 70.
I'm being a little
bit optimistic.
But 72 if you count Denison as well. And then you look at
Erica Betts. Do you think Greenway's going to go Labor?
Let's have a look at Macquarie. It's a relatively fair call with 72% of the vote counted, but we always live in hope.
And Macquarie, let's have a look at that.
I haven't got Macquarie on that list.
See if there's any change there in the Blue Mountains. Here it is. Okay, so Macquarie, the primary vote now are at 83% counted.
Doesn't look good for Labor now.
No, have a look after preferences. I'd say Louise Marcus is going to pick this one up.
Yeah,
here it is.
Edged ahead. Yeah.
And she has edged ahead there.
Yeah.
But I hadn't put that in my list, actually. I assumed that
one of the seats that is still in this too hard to call column is Hasluck in Perth. Mike Willesee is there, and he's speaking to the Liberal candidate. Mike.
Yeah, David, thank you. I've got the Liberal candidate Ken Wyatt here for Hasluck. Ken, 42% of the vote counted, I think, at this stage. You're ahead 50.7 to 49.3, really nothing in it.
No, there's not, and the gap is too close. Sorry, the margin is too close to call.
Did you think it would come down to this?
Yes, I did, because the electorate's a very interesting electorate in the way that it is swung over 3 consecutive elections, and I'm hoping that in the balance of, or the mathematical balance of things, it'll swing back my way.
Ken, how do you feel about it in the context of the way this whole election has gone and how incredibly tight this election is?
It's been an unusual election. There have been a whole range of issues that have come forth. We've seen the polls by the different pollsters fluctuating, and to some extent I anticipated we would be extremely close in Hasluck.
What about some of the other West Australian seats, particularly Canning, where Alana McTiernan has pulled very close now to Don Randall after about a quarter of the vote counted and less than 1% in it?
Well, I hope that Don gets over because he's a hard worker. It's going to be interesting to see what the rest of the pattern is in that count.
A long night ahead?
Oh, it is, but look, they've been long nights for the last 6 weeks, so this is just another night.
All right, just finally, if you are elected, you will become the first Indigenous Australian to be elected to the House of Representatives. How will you feel about that?
Immensely proud and satisfied that we can make it through the party structures and pick up seats, so it's historical in that context.
All right, Ken, we wish you the best. So, David, as we say, it is very close, too close to call, and everyone, I think, strapping in for quite a long night here in Hasluck.
Yeah, it sounds like it. We may not see a result there, Mike, tonight. Let's take a look at the state of the parties and see how things are shaping up nationally. OK, so here we have, with 70% of the vote counted, we have Labor in the old house at 83 seats. Now looking at 73 in the bag, according to our computer projection, but that, I think, is a little optimistic. It may be 70 to 72, I think, but 73 according to the computer. Coalition had 64, now on 69. And we have others, Independents and the Greens, Adam Bant, looking like 4, and then 4 seats undecided. The chamber, based on that, would look like this. Here's the old chamber, first of all. So Labor with a majority there, and then the new House. Yeah, so you can see the change there with the 4 Independents, Labor's majority cut, but still 4 seats there undecided. In fact, it's probably more than 4 that are still undecided. So that final chamber, how it's going to look, we still don't know. A hung parliament looking most likely at this stage, but we have to see what happens in some of these seats. Now, we were looking at New South Wales. The ones that are undecided there, still saying Lindsay and Macquarie are undecided. Moreton in Queensland is looking very close, but Labor with its nose in front. Should we have a look at Corangamite
yes.
again?
Yeah, Corangamite.
Let's have a look at Corangamite in Victoria. Let's see if we have an update there. Darren Cheeseman and Sarah Henderson, the Liberal candidate. So we now have 80% of the vote counted, and after preferences, it's very close.
As the night's gone on, that percentage hasn't really shifted.
No.
Right. So this one...
It'll be postal votes.
A postal vote result.
Exactly.
Okay. And, well, we should probably have another look at Boothby in South Australia to see if that's moved at all. Boothby. So Andrew Southcott.
Looking good.
Yeah, let's have a look after preferences, because that Greens vote's pretty strong there. Okay, now this has moved. We've now got 74% of the vote counted there, and too close to call, but Labor's pulled in front.
Yeah, but I think
in the last
Christopher
half hour or
Pine
so.
made a very important point that with about 1,400 postal votes to come in each seat, that ought to just get Andrew over the line. But of course, still too close to call.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not bad, no?
Yeah, I mean, for a seat like this, no one's going to make it to 76 seats tonight, I would have thought.
No, we could split 73 each and 4 independents.
Yeah, but we're not going to be able to nail those results tonight. No. What'll happen? We're in that situation where the Australian people have spoken, and in about 4 days' time, we'll know what they said. And once we've worked out what they've said, if it's a hung parliament, then the parliament will have to work out who's in government. But from where we're at the moment, it looks very difficult for anyone to be able to call a 76-seat majority tonight.
No, that's right.
We haven't had a hung parliament nationally, federally, since
1940.
1940.
The 2 independents, Coles and Wilson.
What's it going to mean, Bob Hawke? I mean, how difficult is it going to be for a government to work in minority in federal parliament? Because
we've only had the one experience, and of course, on that occasion, it was during the war, and both Coles and Wilson in 1941 crossed the floor and threw the Conservatives out and brought John Curtin and Labor in. So they were particular wartime circumstances. Here, I don't know. You would think that the Green member for Melbourne would have to be counted as virtually a Labor member. I don't mean any disrespect to him in saying that, but you would think that that would be his disposition. Now, I don't know the Oakeshott and
Tony Windsor and Bob Catter.
They're former Nationals.
They're former Nationals, but that can be a plus and a minus from the National point of view.
It's going to be very interesting for them, because none of them would commit to before the election on what they would do in this instance. They do come from Conservative seats.
Yeah.
So, but obviously there are a few issues there as well. So they're in a position where they are from Conservative seats and not in the lead up to the election saying which way they'd go. So it's a very interesting situation.
Parliamentary procedure?
Tony Windsor would.
He'd make an excellent speaker, I think. Sorry, Harry Jenkins.
Interestingly, the National in line took 12% off Rob Oakeshott, which is the National in line took 12% off Rob Oakeshott, which was probably. Yeah, I don't think you'd probably be expecting that.
It's all a better reason for him to go to Labor, isn't it?
It could be a very interesting hung parliament. They could end up, the two major parties could end up with about 73 each on my rough allocation, which is four independents. The one Green would go with Labor, and the other three, depending how they divide, would determine whether Abbott governed or didn't.
Rob Oakeshott, don't forget, voted for Labor's emissions trading scheme. And spoke quite passionately about it in the parliamentary debate on that. It's not to say which way he'll go, but he he didn't side with the coalition on the big legislative.
As did Tony Windsor. He wanted an even higher emissions target.
I mean, I just think we've got to bear in mind that the independents we've got in the federal parliament are very serious, decent people, and there was a current affairs program on during the week. I think Lateline had a couple of them. They couldn't get Rob Oakeshott on because there wasn't a broadband connection to where he was, and they weren't able to have him as part of the broadcast.
Negotiation was started.
But the issues that they were concerned about,
quite transparent.
varied. There was talk about their own seats, but there was also talk about taking into account who had the highest vote, which party had the more seats. There'll be some fairly tight principles that they sit down together and work through that they'll then apply. The fact that you can say, oh, they've got a conservative electorate or this sort of electorate, they are three of the most popular members of Parliament in the House of Representatives.
Tony, they got on their record in the past 3 years. How would their vote have tended to split, do you think, on balance?
Almost right down the middle. Almost right down the middle, and each of them publish to their electorate their voting records, and they consistently have been pretty much right down the middle.
Well, they're suddenly going to be in the box seat, it would seem. I mean, Tony Windsor, from memory, has been in this situation in the New South Wales Parliament before.
Yes.
That's right, and at that
holding
point,
balance of power.
It was immediately after he'd missed out on National Party pre-selection for Tamworth.
That's right.
So he said, oh, I'll run anyway, and won. Having done that, Nick Greiner ended up at the hung parliament, and at the first instance, Tony Windsor became the person to sign up under a few agreements to provide a majority for the Greiner government. A few months later, Terry Metherell split and became an independent, and then the Greiner government had to renegotiate with all the independents. And so I think Tony Windsor's looked at that fairly carefully from how he handled that the first time round. I think you will have trouble getting interviews with the independents for a few days. And I think they'll be talking to each other.
There'll be a lot of
and do you think they'll work together to make a decision on this? Those three, I mean.
Those three.
I think there's a difference between working together and voting as a bloc.
No, but on the decision of which way to go to form government.
They consult. They consult each other. They may all end up with the same view. They're three very different personalities. Very different personalities, but in terms of some of the principles that they'd apply, I suspect there'd be some similarities.
Bruce Hawker?
I think they're going to be looking at the stability of government. That's going to be a particularly important thing for them. They will be looking at voting numbers and so forth. But I just don't think we should assume because they come from conservative electorates they will necessarily always go the conservative way. The National Party's made it their life's work. The National Party made it their life's work to try to unseat these guys. So it's been pretty ugly for them.
That is true, but it is a fact that they are quite conservative electorates they've come from. And I've worked with Rob Oakeshott and Bob Catter and Tony Windsor before. I think everyone's right. They will have a look at the numbers and whatnot, but they'll also have a look at their electorate, and they'll have a look at where their heart has been in the past. And there are a few odd little stories, like Rob Oakeshott's sister was the wife of the Liberal candidate for Eden Monero tonight. They will caucus a bit, but the interesting thing then is, what does the Governor-General do? I presume she has to take the advice of her Prime Minister. Therefore, the Prime Minister has to talk to the three independents first and see what she can do with them.
Well, what happened in New South Wales, and this has happened, I think, in other jurisdictions, is that the independents actually drew up what they call a memorandum of understanding, which both the major parties had to sign up to, and they required them to give certain undertakings about legislative changes on a range of fronts, including things like freedom of information laws and so forth. So it could well be that that's what happens, that you actually have an undertaking given by both parties, or the one that, or maybe the government, and they hold them to it in return for motions of confidence. Well, and I think you could actually have quite a workable arrangement there. The South Australian government under Mike Rann had a Nat in it, a couple of independents, and it worked very successfully, still working very successfully since 2002. It can actually create more of a consensus in the way in which government operates rather than the very divisive approach that we have at the moment. It could be an interesting approach.
Well, we're looking, as you can see here, at the two live shots. Tony Abbott's camp tonight in Sydney and Julia Gillard's in Melbourne. We're told the Prime Minister is very close to arriving. She'll be there shortly to make some remarks. In the meantime, and of course we'll go there as soon as we see some movement there. Let's go to the tally room in Canberra. Peter Van Onselen, of course, is there with his panel tonight. They've been talking on Channel 602. Paul Howes is there as well with him. Peter Van Onselen, are you with us now?
We've got David Spears, I think.
Hello, Peter.
We're going to go.
We're crossing between two channels here, which makes it difficult. But Peter, can you hear me now?
I wouldn't rule this out that the Liberals couldn't make a comeback here late. That is a pretty appalling result for Labor there.
Well, we'll come back to Peter. That's coordinating the two channels together at the same time. But
our channel's better.
Yeah, we'll stick with what we've got here. So we're standing by. Julia Gillard's not far away from making some comments. What will she say at this time of the night, do you think, Tony?
Well, first of all, if I can, there's been a lot of talk about how far Tony Abbott brought his team back over 12 months. Let's not forget where the government was at 3 months ago. In WA, we were going to be wiped out. Fremantle was the only seat we had left. In Queensland, you had a similar wipeout to all the seats that we've lost this time, only instead of it being a Rudd factor, it was a mining factor. Added to that, you had a seat in Tasmania that was gone. So,
but this is all what-if stuff. I mean, you're painting a picture here of Labor actually having done well when you've gone from winning in a Rudd slide 3 years ago, in one term being in a hung parliament and possibly losing office. That's a bad result.
In the course of over the 3 years, you compare that. But what's happened in the course of the conversation tonight is we've been saying, how far did Tony Abbott take it in the 12 months of his leadership?
Yeah,
I think when you ask me about Julia Gillard, it's important to acknowledge in the time that Julia has been leader, we had a significant improvement in our results.
But is this now part of is this what we're hearing now, part of the argument to justify the leadership change? That this is what's begun already. The justification of getting
the reasons for why we did it were given at the time as well. These reasons haven't changed.
All right, we've got to go to Peter Van Onselen now. I'm told he's there in the tally room. Peter, you're with us now.
G'day, David. How are you going?
What's your take on where we're at, looking at hung parliament territory, standing by for Julia Gillard to make some remarks? It was always said to be very close, and it's turned out to be.
It certainly has. We've been watching the seats fluctuate all night. Early on, we thought that there was some chance there that the Labor Party would get a majority in its own right. Now they look like they're struggling to hold on even in a hung parliament situation. In those two key states of New South Wales and Queensland, in Queensland, we think that there are 7 seats lost by the Labor Party. That's on the original boundaries from the last election. So 7 seats lost, unable to pick up the notional seats of Dixon, Herbert and so forth. But in New South Wales, it's a better story for the Labor Party. A lot of people were predicting a pretty dire situation for them there. But on our counting, they've lost the seats of Macquarie, most likely, and Bennelong as well. But beyond that, they're picking up Greenway only just. So a net loss of only 1 seat in New South Wales. Now that leaves them down 8 seats before we look at Western Australia, before we look at the Northern Territory. They've lost their majority. They're probably unlikely to get it back in Victoria is our read. And they're unlikely to pick up seats, it would seem, in South Australia. But it's not a great night for the Labor Party, but perhaps not as bad as some people were predicting when the last week didn't go their way.
Paul Howes, Labor's still short of a majority government at this stage. There is going to be, even if you scrape back in with the support of independents, There's going to be a lot of questioning about what went wrong. How's Labor in one term gotten into this mess? And there will be some questions about the decision to get rid of Kevin Rudd. Is that how you see it playing out?
Well, I mean, we don't know what the result's going to be. We're pretty certain it's going to be a hung parliament. Which way the hung parliament swings to is not clear. I think the amount of twists and turns that we've had in the last couple of hours on some very key seats means that we won't have any clear idea by the end of the night where it's going to line up to. You know, Labor had a very tough campaign. Certainly, I think Victoria and New South Wales have saved Labor tonight. The swings in Queensland, of course, were devastating. The LNP played up state government issues there very successfully into their favour, from bunting through to their television and newspaper advertising campaigns. But it's been a tough campaign. I think there's going to be a lot of soul searching, a lot of questions asked. But we need to remember that even 2 weeks before the parliamentary party took their decision to change the leadership of the party, we were in a worse result than we've come out with tonight.
That's what Tony Burke's just been telling us. Paul, what surprised you tonight in the seat results? Any seats that have really surprised you?
Oh, well, Denison is just bizarre, to be blunt. I don't know what's happened down there, and I still think there's a likelihood that it could return to being a safe Labor seat, because there only seems to be a 100-vote difference between the independent and the Liberal candidate. I certainly think Robertson was an amazing result for Labor. Deb O'Neill, it's a tremendous result there. I understand things are getting tight again, but still, that was a seat that I'd written off a week ago. And I think David Bradbury's putting up an amazing fight in Lindsay, which most people had predicted would have fallen to the coalition very quickly, which showed a reverse of what I was predicting, what I thought yesterday, which was that would go better in Queensland, worse in New South Wales. New South Wales has in fact gone very, very well for the Labor Party, considering where we've been.
All right, Paul Howes, thank you for that. And Peter Van Onselen as well. Thanks, as we said, we're standing by for Julia Gillard to make some remarks in Melbourne tonight. The Prime Minister has obviously been watching nervously these results come in, but Paul Howes mentioned there that Robertson might have tightened up a little bit more. Deb O'Neill has been outperforming expectations there. We might have a look at Robertson while we're waiting and see how that is now looking, if there's any further update there. The primary vote now, with 77% counted, has her just trailing Darren Jamieson. But this Greens vote, let's have a look after preferences at what it's now saying.
She's improved.
I don't know. She'd still be okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
When you go to the votes that get added after election night, the shift that you get is always less than 1%. Always has been. And tonight we've actually got, even though there's more people who voted absentee and postal and everything, at least the pre-polls are in tonight's figures. So if someone's beyond 51%, it would be really unusual for them not to win the seat.
And Lindsay, let's have a look at Lindsay and then Greenway. Lindsay, where David Bradbury, well, according to Labor, this was a write-off weeks ago, but now you can see they're deadlocked on the primary vote there, and after preferences with the Greens and the other independent there, it is really tight.
That's tight.
That hasn't changed much in the last hour, but the Green vote there seems to be splitting not as favourably to Labor as it does elsewhere. So,
Macquarie?
And Macquarie, let's have a look at Macquarie.
That'll be Liberal.
And then we'll have a look at Greenway. Macquarie in the Blue Mountains. Let's see if there's any further progress there. And again, Louise Marcus leading well on that primary vote, but the Greens vote here is crucial. There's just over 10,000 votes. Let's have a look.
Doesn't look so good.
That's
It's
hard.
getting stronger.
Yeah, that one looks like that one's gone to the Liberals. And Greenway, let's see if Labor's managed to improve its position there at all. Okay, so again, very tight on the primary vote, and after preferences, let's see how that looks.
She's not going to lose.
She'll hold on to that. So the Labor losses in New South Wales are Bennelong, Macquarie, and
MacArthur.
MacArthur and Gilmore.
Yeah, Gilmore was
Gilmore.
nationally Labor. Yeah.
Yep. But if you don't include those notional redistributions, it's really a two-seat loss.
Well, I think the one member of the panel should be reasonably happy tonight, and that is the person sitting on my left, because some of the bloodbath scenarios that were talked about in New South Wales simply haven't occurred.
Look, that's correct. I think the New South Wales result it's been a bit uneven, but it's demonstrated, I think, that really what we've seen here is in Queensland, and I come back to that being a Kevin effect there, and certainly New South Wales has gone and really quite well, particularly Central Coast and Eden Monaro. I mean, those are seats that you would have expected, you would have predicted, as Paul Howe said yesterday, gone. We're seeing really strong results, so that's really strong local candidates running on really good local issues. It's a real credit to them.
Does it give you any heart ahead of March?
Look, when we talk about elections being fought on state and federal issues, it's absolutely true. And even in the Penrith by-election, although people would articulate to me their concerns about immigration, they would say to me, I know it's not your issue. I know that this is something that's a different level of government. I don't think you can draw any conclusions, but if you wanted to, it is really pleasing. Those Central Coast results are fantastic because we have some seats there, Wyong, the entrance, that really are always marginal seats for us, and these are great results in that area.
Let's have a look at these seats, Labor's. Okay, we've got them here. These are the seats Labor's gained tonight. Latrobe and McKew, the 30, these were in the Sky News 30 that we identified.
Greenway was a Labor seat.
And Greenway, the redistribution made it Labor, but they've formalised that. It seems it's close, but they look like holding that. And the seats gained by the Coalition, so Brisbane, Bonner, Leichhardt, Ford.
They're calling Ford, that's interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we'll come back and have a look at that. But these are the projections. Dawson was also close, but looks like LNP gain. Flynn, Longman, Bennelong, Macquarie, and Solomon. Let's have a look at Ford, if we can go back there and have a look at how the latest vote looks there in Queensland, in the Queensland seat of Ford. Okay, here it is. So, okay, the primary vote is pretty close, with Bert Van Manen ahead there, but after preferences, let's see that one.
Oh, yeah. Well, if he's over 51% on the Tony Burke thesis, he must be there. I had a question mark next to Ford, so that's very pleasing from the Coalition point of view.
Yeah, can we...
My figures have us on 49.48. So we're behind, but within the realms of what's now been described as the Tony Burke thesis.
We're just going to stick.
You're trying to wiggle out, aren't you?
As we stand by...